We finished the board-sponsored resolutions yesterday, so we're now on the SBA-sponsored resolutions. The first is S220401 on page 9, College Individualized Educational Plans, sponsored by Sac City College and Sierra College. Do we have someone to move the motion? At the pro mic?
Do we have the author to speak in pro for it? Yeah. Olivia? Yeah, we have online. Great. So do you want to start us off?
Yeah. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Olivia Garcia-Martinez from Sacramento City College. And I'm pro for this resolution because I, as a student who has autism, had very much trouble finding services and testing for myself because I wasn't diagnosed until I was 22, and I went to community college when I was 18. So with this resolution, it will help bring testing to students who need it, and also expand services and keep the same services that most students have in high school and in elementary school. Thank you.
Yeah. At the con microphone?
Hello. Can you hear me good?
Yep.
Okay, this is a great resolution.
Please identify yourself first.
I'm Corey. I'm from ABC Antelope Valley College. This is a great resolution, except that who will carry the cost is a little concerning to me. Is that, for instance, if a student in high school were to have hearing aids or something, you know, this resolution is saying to carry those costs over to the college level. So that, therefore, college will be responsible for somebody's hearing aids appointments, hearing aids, or whatever IEP plan they had from high school going into college. And there's a big loop in that where the funds will be coming from. And just like if somebody had to, you know, go for therapy, you know, physical therapy, this is saying that the college is responsible for those costs as well. And the resolution says college is responsible for all costs of the IEP plan, and that's just not feasible in college. That's it.
Thank you. We have a request for information in the Zoom queue.
Irvine Valley College delegate Apoorva Gunti.
Hi. It is to my understanding that accommodations are typically provided by the disabled student programs and services within community colleges. So what will be the difference between placing an IEP versus the accommodations that we already receive? Thank you.
Would the author like to answer that question?
Yes, I can. So in high school, students the school could actually help you get testing for autism or any other things you had. In college, your teacher cannot be like, oh, I think you have ADHD, let me help you get testing. Also in high school, your IEP can be worked with your parents, and also your grades can be told to your parents. But in college, you're technically an adult, so so the school cannot legally talk to your parents about your grades or how you're doing mentally. Thank you.
Okay. Request for information at the center mic, yes. Or a motion?
Point of information, delegate from Palomar, Marie-Therese Mallard. Can the author clarify where the funding is coming from for this? Because in the result, it says that it will be covered, but it doesn't say how.
Thank you for the question. So at the moment, I cannot answer that because I don't know where the funding comes from, but I know DSPS is something that the community colleges have in all the schools. So it's something that not just individual school that has it. It's something that the chancellor's office works for. So the funding can most likely come from the chancellor's office. Thank you.
Okay. We have a con in the chat, in the Zoom chat.
San Joaquin Delta College delegate Hariel Nagunte. Yeah, the floor is yours.
Hi everyone. I do agree with the general sentiment of this resolution. I think it's going to be way too expensive because it's really getting the cost of implementing these IPs to the school. Unlike high schools, community colleges only receive partial funding from the state. To give some numbers, according to an article by EdSource, it takes an average of $26,000 a year for the education of a special education student. And according to a report by the Chancellor's Office, in 2021, the average funding that community colleges received for a student was $8,154. So it's going to be very expensive to implement these programs, and I don't think the colleges have enough funding to do that. Thank you.
Okay, and we have go to the pro mic.
Yeah.
Okay, the pro microphone.
Hello, this is Avinash Ramaswamy, delegate from Santa Ana College, Region 8. First of all, I just want to ask everyone how you're doing, because I know today was a very traumatic day. So yeah, how's everyone doing in handling the event that happened last night regarding the brutal murder of 6 people and injury of countless others? And so with that, I'd like to say that, first of all, I am in support of this, and also to address some of the points that were made in terms of the costs. The resolution states that the Student Senate advocates for colleges to take responsibility in handling the cost of services. So when it comes to advocacy, it's about fighting for what's ideal. Now, is that necessarily going to be what ends up happening? That remains to be seen. That's a negotiation process. But what we're voting on is what we want to fight for, what we want to push. So by voting in favor of this, we're saying we want to push to make sure that colleges cover the cost in whatever mechanism they do, whether it's through government funding, a grant, or something like that. And if that's ends up not being the case, not being the case. But I don't think we should be realistic and give up on that just for the sake of being realistic, because we aren't the college and we aren't making the decision about their budget. We just have to push for it. So I'm in favor of it because I think we should push for it. Whether it happens remains to be seen, but that's our job. Thank you.
The con microphone.
Yes, hi, Oseas from Palomar College. I am in support of this. However, there is a concern that in the first resolve, it states, and I quote, continuation or creation of individualized education plans after high school. We also have to realize that many students did not graduate high school. Some dropped out from middle school or sometimes elementary school because of extreme circumstances, or circumstances are not allowed to continue their education path. So that's something that we should be concerned about.
Thank you. Go to the pro microphone, and we have about 2.5 minutes left on the clock.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Darius Riga from City College of San Francisco, and I had an individualized education plan in high school. And I went to community college, and I struggled for 2 years as I could not get the same support services I had in high school. I had 4 semesters of withdrawals while struggling to get the same supports I needed from the inadequate and patchwork DSPS system. I don't think we can talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion when we consider funding. Resolutions are about setting priorities for this organization, and criticizing this resolution on the basis of funding shows that you really don't consider disabled students to be a priority of the SSCCC. We will find the funding. I feel like disabled students should be an area where we're willing to work to find solutions despite the cost. I urge everyone here to vote in support of this resolution. Thank you.
Pardon me, the interrupting mic, yes?
Sure. I'm the delegate from Sacramento City College, and I would like to request that I would like to move to divide the resolution so we consider each resolves separately. Yeah, divide the resolves.
Okay, one moment while I take a quick look. And I just want to clarify, you're wanting to divide each of the 3 resolves or individually?
So
Right. Okay. And let me, I'm pausing the clock for a moment. We still have a minute and a half left to go.
Yeah.
But just so you understand what I'm doing, when there is a request or a motion to divide a question, the first thing you need to take a look is whether each of the three individual ones stand independently, because you can't adopt one and then you have a vote on two, and it turns out that two is meaningless if you fail to adopt one. So there are some conditions where the question is indivisible because the two are so closely related. A quick glance tells me, I believe these three are separately enough where you could have an individual vote on each one.
Yes, that's
So-
what we would like.
Right. So when we get to the vote, we will take a vote on each of the three individually, but first to the con microphone. Oh, there is no need for a second. Let me explain that as well. Under Robert's Rules of Order, if the individual parts of a resolution are separate, actually, pardon me 1 second. Let me take a quick look. Yeah, I should, on this one, I should ask, is there a second to the motion to divide the question?
Second from outside and close.
Okay. Is there, it's been moved and seconded to divide the question. Is there any objection to taking a separate vote on the three portions? Okay, then we will proceed that way. Okay. In the chat, there is a motion to extend time 5 minutes. Is there any objection to extending time 5 minutes? We do have an objection to extending time. So is there a second to the motion to extend time for 5 minutes on this item?
Santa Rosa Junior College seconds.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to extend time for 5 minutes on. I'm sorry. Okay. So it's been moved and seconded to extend time for 5 minutes on this item. That takes a 2/3 vote. So please use poll everywhere to vote. The question before you is, shall we extend time on this item for 5 minutes?
Yeah. No, or no, it wouldn't. It would just be. Yeah. There was an objection. Yeah, there's an objection from Victoria. Yeah.
Okay, I'm closing the poll on the motion to close debate. We do have 2/3 in the affirmative, so time is extended for 5 minutes. I believe we have both a pro and a con in the Zoom queue.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
In the Zoom pro,
Coastline College.
My name is Jessica Lopez. I am in the ASG for Coastline College. I'm speaking in favor of this because I believe that this is a really important thing for disabled students. Disabled students only graduate at half the rate of non-disabled people, and I would like to challenge the assumption that it's because disabled people are incapable of graduating. Only 10% of disabled people have intellectual disabilities, which means there are 90% of students who are not able to graduate college for other extenuating circumstances. Higher education is not accessible for disabled people, and this plan would actually increase that accessibility because it would allow students to have a plan set out for them. This means that this wouldn't be extending costs by that much because it would just be allowing students to have a plan written out for them. Whereas right now, the SPS has to individually look at each accommodation request one at a time. So what this is doing is by expanding it so that there is a plan for students. And that's why I'm voting in favor of this, and I would hope others would too. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Okay, con in the chat.
Merced College.
Hi everyone. So this is Johan Hickman from Merced College. I had an IEP and a 504 while in high school, and if a student has a 504, that plan follows them throughout their whole entire life. That's why I'm voting opposed to this favor, because if you have a 504, it will continue and you have no need for an IEP.
you. A pro microphone.
So in Mahalia Swires from Butte College Pro, for the first resolve, not talking about funding or anything like that, just advocating for the continuation or creation of IEPs. For me, I'm a student who in high school did not get diagnosed with ADHD, so I did not get the chance to have an IEP in high school. Going into community college and going through DSPS was an incredibly challenging and long process for me to be able to get any support, especially the support that I needed. So to have an IEP that could be created for me in college would have made a huge difference for me for my first semester. So I'm in support of this.
Okay. Is there any more comments?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I understand under your rules, when we balance the pros and cons, so debate is ended. We will proceed to the vote. First, we will be voting on the first resolve clause. So, I'm going to just make sure we know what we're talking about. Resolved 1 is the Student Senate for California Community Colleges advocate for the continuation or creation of individualized education plans, IEPs, after high school. If you are in favor of adopting that resolve clause, you vote yes.
Chair,
Point of information on the center mic.
I would like to suspend the rules of the day that prohibit me from amending the resolution, and I would like to.
Okay.
To make an amendment to the resolution.
Okay. Unfortunately, under your rules, the resolutions cannot be amended on the floor. It can only be an up-down vote. If you feel there's a problem with the resolution, it can't be dealt with today. You could move to refer it back to the board and bring it back, but there is no amendment. There are no floor amendments permitted under your rules.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So again, poll everywhere is now open on the first resolve clause. If you're in favor of that, vote yes. If you're opposed to that, vote no.
Those are like our procedures. They can still suspend them. So it's like moving back to the agenda.
Yeah, okay, I'll explain. Okay. Okay. All right, the poll is closed. On resolved 1, the 53-7, the resolved 1 has been adopted. Before we vote on the second resolved, I do want to explain something to the delegates. Also apologize to the young woman who was at the microphone. Your rules prevent making amendments. Apparently what she was moving was to suspend the rules to permit you to make amendments. Now, I'm not going to address the issue as to whether or not that particular rule can be suspended or not right now. The important thing is make it she may have made it clear, but I overlooked it. But if your intention at a microphone is to move to suspend the rules, make it very clear at the outset I move to suspend the rules before you say anything else, because anything else may kind of distract us. Some of your rules can be suspended by a 2/3 vote. Some of your rules cannot. Okay? Now, it is possible that what she wanted to do was permitted. And of course, I said it was not, because I did not hear her say suspend the rules. Again, she may have said that, I just didn't hear it. So one of the things I want to point out is anytime you make a motion, point of order, anytime there's a ruling from the chair and you disagree with it or you question it, then you should appeal the ruling of the chair or question it immediately. Okay? And the reason I say that is because it was pointed out to me after we were into the vote that I may have misheard and that she should have been permitted to make that motion. The problem is, once voting has begun, you don't interrupt the vote. It becomes final. So if, particularly with, it's odd we're talking about disabilities here, but particularly when you have a hearing impaired presiding officer, if there's anything you disagree with that I may say that requires an appeal of the chair, by all means do so promptly, particularly if there's a vote coming up. With that, we are going to move on to Resolve 2. I will read it. Resolve, the Student Senate for California Community Colleges advocate for colleges' disabled students' programs and services, office to work with medical specialists and the student parents with permissions from the student when creating an IEP. That is the motion before you, is to adopt Resolve 2. Please open the polls. Okay, please close the poll on Resolve 2. Okay. And Resolve 2 is adopted by a vote of 87 to 13%. That brings us to Resolve 3. The Student Senate for California Community Colleges advocate for colleges to take responsibility in handling the cost of any services the students need in their college IEP. That is the motion before you to adopt Resolve Clause 3. Please open the poll.
Because you said it last year, you were like, these guys are making it hard.
All right, we're about to close the poll on the motion. All right, the poll is closed, and Resolve Clause 3 passes by a vote of 36 to 18. Our next resolution is S-220402, Fees at General Assembly, sponsored by A.S. Merritt College. And is J. Adam Austin, the author, present? Okay. If not, is there someone else to move the motion?
He's coming up to speak right now.
Oh. I understand he's moving forward. Okay, pro microphone.
I believe that Fij, John Adam Austin, Merritt College, Oakland, California. So Every semester, $2 is collected from the California Community College students, half of which goes to the SSCCC, so that they can do the advocacy and lobbying work for all of our diverse populations across our 116 campuses, charging the advisors and student leaders to attend when they are receiving over $1.8 million a year to do the work of advocating on our wishes seems unreasonable. So I urge you to vote pro for this motion.
The con microphone.
Darius Rios, City College of San Francisco. While I do absolutely understand the intention behind this resolution, and I do really respect the need for us to help students that might not be able to pay the fees to get to General Assembly out, I don't think it's an appropriate solution to suspend all fees, including for advisors. This resolution shows a fundamental misunderstanding of how the SSCCC is funded and the financial solvency of the SSCCC. General Assembly is one of our biggest costs, and this General Assembly, we barely even broke even. So I don't think it's appropriate to stop collecting funds. A more appropriate resolution would have been with consultation with individuals actually privy on the funding of the SSCCC, some sort of fee relief program. But let's also remind ourselves, colleges often pay for these fees, or student representation fees, which are designed for these kind of events. It's not like students are directly having to pay this fee. However, I would still support a resolution that establishes a fee waiver program, but canceling all fees is essentially guaranteeing the cancellation of General Assembly. Thank you.
The center mic.
Point of information, Ashley Teague, Solano College. How much money does the Student Senate receive and how much of it goes towards General Assembly?
Would a member of the SSCCC Executive Board or our Executive Director like to answer that question?
I have to state my name. Dr. Julie Adams, Executive Director of Student Senate for California Community Colleges. About $250,000 is budgeted for the GA to cover costs such as food. This breakfast you enjoyed this morning was $50. How many could have gone to McDonald's for $1.50, right? So that's $50. Lunch is more. These gentlemen back in the back are not free. So all of that money goes towards having this event. It may seem that, offering free, it's just a lot of money. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's $250,000, and we always have a deficit on the event. So we always pay out of our other resources. I don't know how much we received yet, because many of you haven't paid your bill yet. What?
Wasn't it 917?
Oh, the SRF fee. This year we received $917,000. Yeah, compared to what we're supposed. Why didn't you talk? Compared to what we should have received, which is $2.1 million.
Okay. At the con microphone.
Yes, so I would like to provide some context. I was formerly the conference committee chair who's in charge of planning General Assembly. I do just want to remind everyone that we are a 501c3 nonprofit, so we do not pocket any of the money from General Assembly, so waiving the fee would put us in a greater deficit, and that takes away from advocacy, the reason why we're here. So I just want to let you know that by waiving the fees for General Assembly, we're taking away from our sole purpose for, advocating on behalf of students. I yield my time.
In the Zoom queue, pro.
Fairvine Valley College.
Yes, hello. I advocate for pro on this resolution because typically community colleges consist of students that are low income or have financial issues that bar them from moving. And this goes completely against what I believe conferences do, which is to try and promote advocacy within our student government and our student body population in general. And so I believe by having less of a part of this would help students be able to achieve that goal of advocacy.
Thank you. At the con microphone.
Oh, no, go ahead, Victoria, go ahead.
Hi. So with this resolution, Mount San Antonio College, Victoria. Sorry, I always forget. I really just think no on this one. I think it needs to be more developed. I think if it was just the delegate and one advisor, as we all know that the delegate is required usually to attend with an advisor, so maybe one delegate, one advisor, and that's it. Maybe that would be a more appropriate resolution, but I really think that up to 2 students per campus, advisor, alternate delegate, it is too much for one resolution. Yeah.
Okay, before I go to the chat, center microphone for a question.
Thank you, Chair. Delegate Casey Chang from Mission College. My question is there a system in place that students can use to gain financial aid to come to GA?
As far as I'm aware, and Dr. Adams, you can elaborate on this as well, there is, correct? Or is there not?
There's no process, but generally if students make a request of us, then we do provide a free registration. And every delegate is free.
Thank you.
Okay, another question at the center mic.
Yeah, Sacramento City College delegate, and I have a point of information. So we were wondering, what did this year's budget look like? Like, was there a surplus, a deficit, and how does all this factor in? Because we wanted a more, at least an overview of the financial breakdown for this year and how making this free will affect it next year. Thank you.
Dr. Adams will answer that in just a moment.
Okay, so based on the number of people anticipated to attend, as well as charging an online fee, so we were going to charge a fee for those online, but we chose not to, so everybody online is free. So you have to take into consideration with the budget, so that's included in here, plus sponsors, and we didn't receive as many sponsors as we like. Overall, the actual budget was $10,000 over. But again, taking into consideration, we waived the fee for anybody online, as well as we didn't receive the sponsorships we needed.
Thank you.
And we will be at a deficit for this year. I don't know how much of a deficit, but it's looking like could be about 25, 30,000.
Okay. We have about 1 minute and 20 seconds left. Con in the queue. Zoom queue.
Yeah, David Orta, Hartnell College.
Hi, thank you very much. My name is David Orta from Hartnell College. It sounds like the fees are greatly needed for the General Assembly to be made possible. And although the resolution sounds well intended, it does sound like it's waiving fees for too many individuals to be feasible for the GA to happen. I'd suggest waiving fees for the main delegate and maybe one additional student who maybe is not on the SBA, just to give more students an opportunity to see what SSCCC is all about. Thank you.
Okay. Center mic for a question.
Okay. Sorry. A point of information regarding this, the issue on the second resolve where it says students does not charge fees to presenters. So does that include student presenters for workshops? Are they charged a fee to present?
Are you asking that? Are they currently?
Yeah. Yes. Currently.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I was a delegate from Santa Ana College, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay. We only have 5 seconds left, so if there's no well, we'll take a question at the center mic before we go to the vote.
John Adam Austin, Merritt College, Oakland, California. I move to extend debate by 5 minutes.
Okay, the motion is to extend debate by 5 minutes. Is there a second to the motion? The second was by Antelope Valley College. So the motion before you is to extend time on this item for 5 more minutes. We'll open the poll on that. It takes a 2/3 vote.
Yes. It's going to go to a vote anyways, so there's no debate on it.
Actually, rather than do the poll, if there's no objection, at the moment we just have 1 pro and 1 con at the microphones. If there's no objection, rather than voting to continue debate, some of the time was taken up with a number of requests for information. So unless there's objection, I'm going to allow the 2 people at the microphones to speak. Pro.
I'm Corey from ABC, and I'm a pro. So there's a dollar, so y'all got to be able to separate this. So every year, $2 is taken out, and $1 goes to SSCCC, which equivalates to $1.8 million. So this is saying, why do they need an extra $250 per student, speaker, and all that when they have $1.8 million budget per year? What's the $250 for? You know, that's not a question. That's just my argument. That's it.
Con microphone.
Thank you so much, Chair. My name is Jen Gallinado from Sacramento City College. I want to point specifically to the resolves as they are simply infeasible on the SSCCC's end. Simply speaking, as I heard before by previous points, we are a nonprofit organization that identifies as a 510c3 nonprofit organization. I want to additionally note that in order to that many colleges, actually I believe a majority, if not all of our colleges, when they are paying for General Assembly or any conference events, they actually tend to use their SRF fees or student representation fees. In addition to that, they typically are paying for an advisor as well. So simply put, I do want to just pose to the author and ask why these resolves were as written as they were. I believe they could be expanded upon as, yes, I do recognize and realize it could be a great idea, but simply put on the SSCCC's, and I don't find that these are feasible because without money, you cannot hold events. We would not be here without having money, therefore not having an event, simply put. With that being said, I yield my time. Thank you.
Okay.
Point of information
Okay.
that I'll get from Santa Ana College.
Question. Actually, before we go to go ahead and ask the question first. Then we have someone in the queue I need to deal with.
Oh, okay. What is the percent of the revenue from, or not revenue, but percent of funding that's from fees from participants and fees from presenters?
Fees between presenters, and so presenters' fees are reduced to be the same as the student's fee. Oh, very, very little is from presenters. We had maybe 20 presenters, and we have 350 folks here.
All right, before we proceed, we do have in the queue someone to make a motion to divide the question, which would be, debate is closed. So the issue is to divide the question for purposes of voting. It is a divisible question. The first resolve clause would eliminate registration fees essentially for all attendees. The second resolve clause deals solely with the fees for presenters for workshops. Is there a second to the motion to divide the question?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been, for purpose of your college?
Sacramento City College.
Okay.
Sacramento City College.
All right. Okay. So the motion before you is, shall the question be divided? Again, because of the Zoom queue, let's use poll everywhere. Vote yes if you wish to take a separate vote on each of the 2 resolve clauses. Vote no if you prefer to take it all in one vote. Open the poll, please.
In the meantime, can I do a point of information?
Once the poll is done. Sure. All right. Okay, let's close the poll. Okay, the motion to divide the question is adopted. Oh, pardon me, one second.
Wait.
The screen just flickered. I believe it. Do we have it?
There. Could we? Could we have the poll, just the results showing on the screen?
Okay.
Yeah, just do not approve.
Okay. I stand corrected. The motion to divide the question was not approved, so we will take a single vote. You are voting whether or not to approve S2204.
Chair, point of information.
Okay. The time on this is expired. If the point of information relates to the conduct of the vote, we will address it. If it relates to substantive matters, the time is closed.
Okay.
Okay, the motion is to whether to adopt S220402 fees at General Assembly. A yes vote adopts, a no vote rejects. Oh, please open the poll. Okay, please close the poll.
Yeah, it switches.
Okay. Okay. The noes have it. The motion fails. Before we proceed to the next resolution, it is 10:20. I know you began at 9, but I know many of you were in here as soon as 8 o'clock or 8:30. So unless I hear objection, the chair is going to take the prerogative to declare a 5-minute recess so you can refresh your coffee or use the restrooms. Please try to be back promptly.
Thank you very much.
Taking it all for us, doing it all for love.
Aaron, if you could come back up to the stage.
All right.
Okay, we will be resuming in 2 minutes, so please return to your seats.
Almost?
Ew. Get him.
Okay. Wait, where'd you plug it into? Because I might need to do that soon. Okay. Okay, neat. Oh, geez. Yeah.
Pardon me, but I realize those out in the hallway may not have heard. Would somebody near the door please let those in the hallway know we'll be resuming in just a minute?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Yeah, we got it now. Oh, yeah, look at that. So we got like. Oh, I guess we only got 12.
Okay, please take your seats. We're going to resume the consideration of resolutions.
So remember that. So we got to make sure that we get to those appropriately. Reminded me, actually.
Okay, we're all set?
Yes, start.
All right, we're all set to go. Your next resolution is S220403, Units for Serving as Executive, sponsored by Merritt College. The author is Lisa Hogan. Is Lisa Hogan in the room?
Has the sponsor designated a speaker in her stead? John, that's you.
That is so.
All
John
right.
Adam Austin, Merritt
Microphone.
College.
Pro mic, please go for it.
John Adam Austin, Merritt College. Speaking in support of this resolution, we know that being involved in student government is a lot of work, it's a lot of learning, it's a lot of free time that could have been spent elsewhere. And a lot of students, 40% of our students system-wide are non-traditional or otherwise deal with other sorts of issues that, 18 to 20-year-olds don't. And where student parents, returning students, people with disabilities might have other obligations and time sucks, the treating service as a one-unit class for student government to meet the state requirements of 5 units at a minimum of 2.0 GPA would help broaden and diversify the voice of students at student government. So I strongly urge your support. Thank you.
Con microphone.
Ashley Teague, Solano College. To me, what this sounds like is someone's trying to hold on to their position after they transfer. If you change the requirement to a 1-unit course, anyone at a UC school or CSU could come to a community college and take a class, and it would make them able to serve on student government. We want to make sure that these people in their college's student governments are invested students. We don't want to have people from UCs or CSUs come in and take positions from students who are way more involved in the curriculum and things going on in campus. Thank you.
Okay, before we go to the next mic, we have a request for information in the chat.
Irvine Valley College Delegate Apor Vagunti.
Thank you. This is regarding the second result for when it says at least 1-unit course. Does this mean that students would be required to pay just as they would with any other class in order to be part of student government? Thank you.
Would the speaker of the resolution like to answer that question?
Presumably, yes. It is not to be necessarily that it is a 1-unit class. It could be treated as higher than 1-unit class or taken perhaps as a non-credit and non-charged unit. However, because there are certain officer positions that do so many extra hours, the equivalent course time should be considered. Thank you.
Okay. Pro microphone.
I, Delegate Amy Atea from Las Positas College, am in support of this resolution. I know that we are limited on time, so I'll keep my pro short. Ensuring that non-traditional students have a voice in our student government is critical to the success of underrepresented groups, who might not be able to take more than 1 unit. And that is for various and valid reasons, such as working a part-time job, being a single parent, being a parent in general, returning students, or simply going at a slower pace, which is all okay. Let's think about why they cannot take more than 5 units. Why do some students have a 2.0 GPA? It's an equity gap, and if we take away their voices with restrictions, it'll only make it worse. We should not be gatekeepers to success. Thank you.
Con microphone.
So this is a delegate from Santa Ana College. I agree with every point, a concern that was brought up. The issue that this is trying to address, the whereas, is everything is that say it is 100% true, but I don't think that the solution is appropriate to make it a 1-unit class or to advocate to make it a 1-unit class, because when we're talking about this, the equity issues and the 5-unit and 2.0 GPA requirement, that is true. And again, like I said, I agree with that. But what we should be trying to do is either reducing that or finding a way to change that policy and not trying to, circumvent it in order to, grant it as a 1-unit class. And it creates a lot of complications for a lot of existing student governments that, for example, provide scholarship stipends and stuff like that to their officers because, that's their way of, incentivizing, way of, equitable access funding to their students, and so by making it where it's a unit, then that creates all those logistical complications, not to mention the fact that students shouldn't be paying to participate in student government. There shouldn't be a unit that they have to take, and it raises a lot more concerns about equity than it does address. And so I do think that the concerns should be addressed, but this isn't the way to do it. Thank you.
Okay, before we go to the queue, we have a question at the center mic. Perhaps it's being addressed. I think it's been addressed. Let's go to a pro in the chat queue.
David Orta, Hartnell College.
Thank you. My name is David Orta, delegate from Hartnell College. I agree with what the student said on SSCCC College about it affecting non-traditional students in a negative way. And also students that can't take more units or succeed due to unequitable conditions, like having to work several hours in the job or don't have enough time because they're a parent. These students might be the ones that need to be heard the most, and having more opportunities open to them would be critical in that sense. Thank you.
Okay, in the chat queue, Khan, Moore Park, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry, question of information at the center mic.
Yeah, Mount San Antonio College, Victoria. I have a request for information from the author. This resolution, the way it was worded, would change ed code. Does the author have an actionable plan for the SSCCC to work with this once it is passed?
This has no intention of changing the ed code. The ed code still remains at 5 units at 2.0 or above GPA. However, it creates in campuses system-wide the option of having student government service be counted as coursework.
Okay, returning to the chat queue, we have a Khan from Moore Park.
Hello, David.
Hey, thank you. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there in person, and I'm in the airport, so please forgive any background noise. I just wanted to say that I'm against because I believe student government should be represented by students who have the full student experience. And I feel like it's hard if someone is only taking a 1-unit course to be able to truly represent the overall student body with the best interest if they're taking such little units at their college. This isn't to say that they can't get their voice out, but to be able to lead their students, I think they need to be able to have that student experience and still also have the time to dedicate those hours to student government. And with that, I'll yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to in the room to the pro mic, and we have about 2 minutes and 40 seconds left.
Hello, I'm Harley Liggett, and I'm from Butte College. In my position at Butte College, I cover diversity and inclusion, and that also covers the DSPS students. I don't know how many of you have looked at your website for the classes, but the disabled student programs, some of their classes are 0 units just because they're going through a disabled class. So some of those students might be taking an English class, and that can lead about 3 units, and then they could take another class leading about 1, but they might not be able to take another class added onto that, sitting at about 2 to 3 units. So if they do student government, which their voices need to be heard, they would be able to get that extra unit and be able to speak on student government. The reason we don't have a lot of disabled students at the school speaking in student government is purely because of the class load with that. And so I think it would be really great if they were able to speak. And also, there is a lot of work that goes into student government, so providing an extra credit would help a lot of students. But I think with this, we also need to put other things in place, requiring students to actually make sure that work is being done, because too many students join student government and they're not doing what needs to be done. So there needs to be some specifications, but I think it would be wonderful to add in. Thank you.
We have a request for information in the chat.
Delegate Vang.
Thing from Butte College. My question is, how would these students pay for their units? How would the students who are in the officer positions be able to pay for their unit in the classroom?
Presumably, they will pay for their 1 unit, optionally taking their student government service as a 1-unit class, the same way that they paid for the 4 other units that would require them to serve. So they would still need 5 units in order to serve. They would just receive as a reward for their proper service, student government being counted as at least a 1-unit class.
Okay, we only have 15 seconds left, and we have balanced the pros and cons, so I'm going to close debate and proceed to the vote.
Chair,
Request for information, Center Mike.
I move to extend time. Marie Tresmau, delegate from Palomar College.
Okay. There's a motion to extend time on this for 5 more minutes. Is there a second to the motion?
Palomar College.
I'm sorry, was there a second to the motion to extend
Santa
time?
Rosa Junior College, seconds.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to extend time. That's not debatable motion. 2/3 vote to extend the time. Please open the poll. Oh, let me ask this first of all. Are there any objections to extending time? Okay. All right. There is an objection, so we will open the poll. Okay. All right. The poll is now open. All right. It looks like all of a sudden we're getting some movement.
Okay.
Okay, I'm closing the poll. There were not 2/3 in the affirmative, so we will not continue debate. We will now open the poll for S220403. A yes vote adopts, a no vote rejects.
That's what I was thinking too. But like,
Is the motion not adopted?
What's that?
Is the motion killed?
The motion to extend
Extend
debate.
time? Yeah. Oh. I thought it passed.
It needs 2/3 vote.
Oh, right.
Okay, I'm going to close the polls. Okay, the motion, a majority is in the negative, so the motion is not adopted. The next resolution is S220404, nullification of atrocities, sponsored by Merritt College with the author J. Autumn Austin. Would you like to speak to your motion?
John Adam Austin, Merritt College. So a lot of people have approached me about how atrocity is kind of nebulously defined, and that was very intentional. There are two actually concrete asks in this resolution. The first is that within our California Community College's coursework, particularly in history and social sciences, that we preserve the historical memory of the different atrocities committed by the United States government, whether that is, let's say, the enforced disappearance of millions across Central and Mesoamerica between 1950 and 1980, or the forced sterilizations of African American and Hispanic units, women in Los Angeles County, or any of the other number of horrific things that our government has done. So have our students know about it and make sure that if they transfer to UC or CSU, that they know that these things happen and that there is a legal doctrine for opposing that at the individual, community, state, and national level. Thank you.
The con microphone.
Darius Rigo from City College of San Francisco. While in principle, I absolutely agree with this resolution, the amount of atrocities that have been committed by the American government as well as the state of California are numerous indeed. However, the resolution itself shows a fundamental misunderstanding in how we would go about this, and also just is not clear. I feel as though it would be far better to refer this back to the board for further discussion, as well as finding a more appropriate legislative solution to this. I really do feel like we do need to include education about atrocities in our community college curriculum, but this resolution is not going to achieve that. Thank you.
Oh, Chair?
All right, again, just a reminder, please try to hold down the applause because you do have time limits and it interferes with it steals time from the speakers. Center microphone for question.
Okay, so it's point of information. Fatima Nushin from Sacramento City College. I just want to ask the author of this resolution to make clarification on the second resolve that it says that the Student Center for California Community Colleges strongly advocate for and promote the legal doctrines of nullification and interposition in all IGT and CSU. Thank you. Sacramento City College.
Okay, please answer the question.
Thank you. The doctrine of nullification is essentially that individuals and states can read the law themselves and decide whether or not the law is just, worthy of being followed, or improperly being followed. Interposition is a little bit more complicated. That's where groups of communities, states, individuals come together and, having read the law, decide that together they will work to oppose a corrupt federal, state, or local government. Thank you.
Okay. Pro microphone.
Kevin Lee, Diablo Valley College, pro. So my point is not necessarily about the execution of this resolution. Rather, I would like to talk about the spirit of this resolution. I would like to address a certain point of view that arises under discussions such as these. The concern that through actions such as those proposed for this resolution, we are teaching our future generations to hate America, to despise our nation. In response to points like these, I am led to ask, when have the nations of this world not committed atrocities? When have crimes against humanity not been committed through the power of the state? Does it take lies to love your nation? Does it take deception to ensure the survival of civic life? I would make the case that, at least within a healthy democracy, the truth is the opposite. How can you love your nation without addressing the sins of its past? How can you carry out your civic duty without holding the people and Senate of your country accountable? It is our duty to uphold the creed that our nation was founded upon. And this means addressing the times where it has violated that creed so it may never happen again. To address the evils of your nation's past is not to hate your nation, but to allow it to grow and flourish along the steep uphill path of progress.
Okay. Hold up one moment, please. I'm going to recognize a con in the chat. It came in before I recognized the pro. I was just unaware of it. So in the chat, con.
Irvine Valley College.
Hello. Although I fully agree with the whereases, and I think that our country has committed many atrocities that we should definitely consider and learn about, I do want to say that I feel like what was described when talking about the resolution was not properly reflected within the resolution itself, which is why I am voting for, or why I want to advocate for one. Because, in my opinion, I don't think the resolution properly explains, ways that we can think about, resolving the issues described before as. Thank you.
Okay. Pro microphone.
Mahalia Swires from Butte College. I am fortunate enough to be a part of the Native American community in Northern California, and I strongly encourage everyone to vote pro for this bill, due to the fact that growing up, I was always taught about the white part of my history in California, about the gold miners that came and made California what it is, but I never learned about the atrocities that happened to my own family, and I think it's incredibly important that students get a deeper understanding of what their colleagues have gone through or what their ancestors may have gone through, so that we can better support each other. Thank you.
Con microphone.
I'd like to say I agree that we should acknowledge the wrongdoings of this country and our state. I think that is something that is vitally important to our education. However, I'd like to point out that there's no clarification of what it constitutes an atrocity, and what may be an atrocity to you and me may not be an atrocity to someone else. And I think this lack of clarity on what the curriculum would consist of makes it so there's no guarantee about what will be taught in these classes, and I don't think it should be passed without a clear outline of what this curriculum would consist of.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to, I recognize there's someone at the pro mic, but since he has already spoken, we're going to go to in the Zoom queue for a con from someone who has not yet addressed the body.
San Joaquin Delta College.
Hi, my name is Dario. I basically have the same point as the last person who spoke, which is that this resolution is extremely vague in its definition of what atrocities are. Potentially, if someone 2 years from now is reading this resolution, they can interpret the word atrocity as anything. It can be anything the United States government does, or it can be nothing the United States government has ever done. So I think this resolution is not going to be implemented practically in any way because it's very, very vague in its definition of atrocity. Thank you.
Chair,
Sorry, point of information, Senator Mike.
I move to refer this to the Board of Directors for further study and a report on their findings.
Okay. There's a motion to refer this to the Board of Directors for further study and a report on their findings. Is there a second to that motion? Could you identify your college?
Awesome.
Diablo Valley College. So the motion, you may speak to your motion.
Also, Ashley.
I should mention we have 2 minutes left on the item.
Oh, Ashley Teague Solano College. Or wait.
Oh, did you want to speak on the motion to refer?
Oh, no, I just didn't say my name in college.
All right. Is there anyone who would like to speak on the motion to refer this to the board? Yes.
I would be very skeptical about referring this to the board. Members of the board have tried to institute a minimum qualification to make this kind of a tight circle, as well as the fact that I worked with Executive Director Julie Adams as well as professional parliamentarians in preparing this particular resolution so that we know we can work with the various academic senates and senate partners to make sure that this occurs. So I very strongly urge you not to refer.
Okay. 1 minute. Is there anyone who would like to speak opposed to the motion to refer to the board? Oh, I'm rephrase it. Pro. I recognize you're at the con, but since we've got a new motion, right now, just go ahead and we only have a minute left, so I'm not going to have you race to the other mic.
Well, I'll just yell it. Anyway. Oh, I thought she was going first because she's at the parliamentary.
I asked if she wanted to speak, and she said no. Did you wish to speak to your motion?
I would just like to say, since it's not clear, I'd like to have this motion go through because I think it would help to have a clear outline of what this curriculum would consist of.
She just said she would speak in favor because she wants to see the curriculum more research so it can actually be actualized.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Now, I think if there's no objection, we've had balanced pro and con. We only have 20 seconds left.
Chair.
So unless there's objection, I'm going to go ahead and open the poll.
Chair. I would like to move to extend debate by 5 minutes.
Okay, there's a motion to extend debate by 5 minutes. Is that motion seconded?
Motion by who?
Motion by John Adam Austin of Merritt College.
Okay. Is there a second to the motion to extend debate? Okay. I heard a second, but I didn't hear who it was.
Barstow College.
Seconded by Barstow College. Okay. So let me just clarify where we are. Okay. We have the resolution on the floor. We have a motion to refer it to the board for further study and report back. We have a motion now to extend debate by 5 minutes. So first, and if debate is closed. So first, the first vote will be whether or not you wish to extend debate by 5 minutes. That's a 2/3 vote. So open the polls for extending the debate for 5 minutes.
How'd you say? Well, we're debating a very
This is getting wild.
Right. And with the subsidiary motions, because that's what it's talking about.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll on the motion to extend time. The motion did not achieve a majority vote, much less the 2/3, so time is not extended. So we are now about to open the poll on the subsidiary motion to refer this to the board for further study and a report back. Please open the poll on the motion to refer to the board.
Supposedly someone objected. Sac City objected before.
Objected what?
To this
To
motion.
the motion.
Too late.
We've already opened.
Yeah.
They did it before the poll opened, though.
But no one heard it. I didn't.
I heard him.
I'll explain it when we're done. I don't want to interrupt the vote.
Hmm? What if it ties? Do I break it?
Oh, then we'll just vote on it.
So we're just putting on the refer. Yeah, the refer.
Okay. No, that's good. All right, I'm about to close the polls. Oh, the poll is. All right, the motion to refer to the board is approved. The screen shows percentages, but if I recall correctly, it was a one-vote margin, 31 to 30. 33 to 31. So the motion to refer to the board for further action has been approved. Before we go on to the next resolution, I do want to explain something because I heard a couple of people who wanted to object to the question or who did object to the resolution. So I want to just explain for their purposes and anyone else. There is a motion to object to consideration. It allows you to say, I don't think we should even be considering this. It's out of here. We're not going to debate it. We're not going to discuss it. It's going to be off the agenda. It's not a debatable motion, and it takes a 2/3 vote to reject a motion in that form. The key principle to it is the motion is in order only before debate begins. So once we've recognized the author of the motion or speaker to say pro, and once their mouth has opened, it is too late to object to the consideration. So I don't know whether this will come up again in the future, but remember that if there's a resolution and you don't think it should be considered, that is not a debatable motion, so you're not going to be able to debate it, and the objection needs to be made immediately as it's stated. With that, your next motion, your next resolution is 220405, Opportunity Pluralism for Pre-Med Community College Students, sponsored by A.S. Merritt College. J. Adam Austin is the author. Mr. Austin?
Thank you. So this resolution calls for the California Community Colleges, the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, to work with our academic partners in the various academic senates to make sure that the California State University system begins to open medical school facilities. Currently, it's the exclusive monopoly of the UC Regents, and in the United States, we have less than a quarter as many doctors per capita as places like Cuba, and far less than half of places like Germany. And these lead to huge public health costs, as we've seen numerous speakers over the course of this weekend talking about how they did not receive any diagnosis of their disabilities or aid until well into community college. So by creating these additional facilities, we improve the public health infrastructure of California and expand opportunities for students from community colleges to actually matriculate, because pretty much 1 in 20 students is accepted into medical school just to keep the numbers exclusive. So I strongly urge you to make your lives, the lives of your cohorts, and everyone better by voting for this motion. Thank you.
There's no one in the room. Is there anyone in the chat queue to speak?
Are there any cons in the chat? I'm just asking if there are any cons in the chat. I'm
Okay, looks like there's no one else to speak on this item. We will open the poll on,
Right
oh,
here.
pardon me. Con Mike.
Good evening, everybody. My name is David Williams, ASG Secretary of Palomar College, Region 10. I would like to say, while the plan to create more opportunities for students interested in the medical field is admirable, the lack of actionable plan is of immense concern with this resolution. The time and monetary resources to engage community college students in association with the American Medical School Board of California would require extensive oversight and mutual support from CSU and UC systems. Grievances regarding this resolution can be referred to in the second resolve. I feel that even though the resolution to have transfer admission guarantees for community college students and legislative priorities and fee forgiveness for community college students is admirable, the immense resources given would take a substantial amount of time from other legislation that I feel is more important at this time. Thank you.
Anyone in the queue?
No.
Okay, pro microphone.
Hi, I'm Harley Liggett, and I'm from Butte College. I think this would be a wonderful thing to add in. I do think it needs a lot of time put into it because this is a big thing to do. But I don't know how many of you are pre-med students. I'm a pre-med student, and I know the process is extensive and it's expensive. It costs almost $30,000 for a lot of students to go to their interviews because it costs about $1,000 per interview. And they want you to apply to at least 16 schools and pay for secondary applications and things like that. If more schools were opening up to take students in other than just the UC schools and the other really expensive private medical schools, that would help a lot of students. It also, looking into the medical school timeline and how students have to get through it, it causes a really high spike in depression for a lot of students. So if more things were opening up, that would help a lot of people. Thank you.
The Con Mike.
Darius Rigo, City College, San Francisco. I am as well a pre-med student. And I would just like to say, it's kind of odd that this is a resolution supposedly supporting pre-med students. I really don't think any pre-med students were consulted in the drafting of this resolution because I feel as though we need a lot of different supports than what is suggested in this resolution. This is going to take 10 years minimum. This is so much work, and this isn't even the correct forum. The resolution shows a misunderstanding of the process, saying that you can somehow add this to the Constitution when CSUs aren't even mentioned in the Constitution of the state of California. This would be better done at the CSU level or through advocacy. But honestly, right now, pre-med students need so many other kinds of support, like an institutionalized pre-med advising program at California community colleges. This resolution is honestly just performative. I feel as though it really does not address the issues that pre-med students in community colleges face, and it should not be approved because it's distracting from the real issues. Thank you.
We have a request for information in the queue.
Delegate Bang.
Butte College. My question is referring in the first resolved, in that the Student Senate, to quote it, or that the Student Senate for California Community Colleges strongly advocates for and promote as one of its legislative priorities, legislation, or an amendment of the Constitution of California to create at least 6 new medical schools through the California State University system. And my question is in referring to this specific resolve, if you guys have consulted with California State Universities that they are even put in this resolution that you guys have made.
John, would you like to answer that?
No, only community college pre-medical students were consulted for this, drafting this resolution.
In the queue, we have a Con, or do we have a Pro?
We have a point of information.
A point of information in the queue.
Irvine Valley College.
Hi. I have a question regarding the resolve that talks about creating a transfer admission agreement between CCCs and the CSU schools. This is more regards to the fact that a lot of the majors considered pre-med are slowly being removed from the TAG program. So when you're talking about including the medical admission process, just also trying to include the decrease that is currently happening between the ag process as well, just between the California community colleges and the universities.
John, would you like to answer that?
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. In a sense, I'm asking if, for like the tag process that's happening right now, a lot of the majors that like fall under pre-med are currently being removed.
If I understood your question correctly, it's that currently there's a lot of transfer admission guarantees that are being stripped from the system. I don't believe that we should just lay down and take it. I think that we should make sure that California community colleges can become physicians and can serve their communities with their great hearts, and that we should have transfer admission guarantees to the CSU system for combined bachelorate and medical degrees within our system. Thank you.
Okay, we have 2 minutes, 30 seconds left of debate. We're going to the Zoom queue for a con.
Moore Park College, Con.
Hi, my name is Lawton. I'm a pre-med student, hospital volunteer. I'm currently enrolled in the UCLA Summer EMT program, and I'm hopefully a future trauma surgeon. I want to state specifically in con for the second resolved because it encourages students to get a joint bachelorette and MD degree. This will not solve our doctor shortage. The problem is not the number of students applying. The Association of American Medical Colleges reported a record high number of med school applicants for the 2021-22 year. Community colleges do not currently prepare students enough for the MCAT. I think that would be a much better thing to include in this resolve. Four-year transfer is a necessary step between community college and med school. A higher number of less educated doctors will not solve this problem. More med schools and better match NRNP programs will. Thank you.
Pro microphone.
Hi, yes, Brenda Bott from Bakersfield College. Just to point out the first resolve, to create at least 6 new medical schools through the California State University system. So this is an awesome idea. I feel like a lot of pre-med students get deterred by pursuing their dreams and in becoming doctors, physicians, nurses because of that competition of going into a good school. And by making new schools available for them, it's just a wondrous idea. It's like school is all about competition, right? We're fighting, we're
30 seconds.
pursuing, and making new schools available for them would be an awesome way of allowing them to do so. Thank you.
Is there a question at the center mic? Okay. All right, while he's question?
Nigerian Peoples, Antelope Valley College. I moved to refer this to the board for further study.
Okay. There's a motion to refer this to the board for further study. Is there a second to that motion?
Santa Rosa Junior College, second. Delegate Matty Cottrell.
Okay. It's been seconded by Santa Rosa College. Antelope Valley. So the motion before question.
I would like to object this motion.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
He's objecting. Sacramento City College objects.
Okay, it's too late. First of all, on objective consideration, you can only object considering a resolution itself, the main motion. Subsidiary motions like postpone, refer, close debate, those are not objectionable motions. So the motion before you is to refer this to the board for further study. That is ordinarily a debatable motion, but time is up, so we will open the poll on the motion to refer S220405 to the board. Please open the poll. Okay, again, just to clarify, if you want to refer this motion to the board, you vote yes. If you do not want to refer it to the board, you vote no. If it's referred to the board, that does it for today. If you reject the referral to the board, then we will then vote yes or no as to whether to adopt. Okay, I see the number of results. We're going to close the poll. The motion to refer to the board is approved. We will move on to the next resolution, which is 220406. Fighting student food insecurity. One moment. Okay, I understand someone made a point of order that the last time I said a motion to refer was a 2/3 vote, and this time I said a majority, so there may be a misunderstanding. I don't know whether the misunderstanding is the person who asked to raise the point of order or whether I misspoke. But in any event, it is a 2/3 vote for a motion to close debate. A motion to refer is only a majority vote. So 220406, Fighting Student Food Insecurity. Again, Merritt College and J. Adam Austin. Pro mic.
The California Community College system has a lot of low-income, first-generation, and otherwise students who are impacted by poverty and hunger. Our school bookstores and cafeterias waste and throw away food every day. This resolution would encourage the Student Senate for California Community Colleges to advocate for and help colleges to devote the resources and infrastructure to building up the facilities to store and distribute food to their hungry students so that they can attain their education and succeed. So I strongly urge your support. Thank you.
Is there anyone who would like to speak against this motion? Mike.
Hello, everyone. Diego Juarez from Cerritos College. I just want to say that this is a good resolution. I like it, but I have some concerns about it. Firstly, and I am talking with especially more about undocumented students. I don't know if you are aware, but sometimes they have some limitations in where they can ask resources to the government. So I don't know if this plan addresses that if they're going to collect any data or if they're just going to give the food for free or if they're going to have any data that tracks the students who are taking or receiving those benefits like the food. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to, pro microphone.
Hello, Harley Liggett, Butte College. I think this would be a great bill to help students with food insecurity. I know that the school is doing a little bit to help students. Like last week, my school did a free bag of rice. So there's some things being done, but not that much. And food waste is a really, really severe problem in the United States, not just in the United States, actually, in the world. And if the food is already going to waste, it would make the most sense to just give it away for free. I know that we have local food pantries. I myself have been to some of the local food pantries, but it's really hard to get in. Growing up, we would have to wait in line for a few hours just to get a few things. And some of them would actually charge you to come in. And so I just think it would be great if it's already going to waste. But I do know that there should probably be some concern if they're giving you expired food, because that is a lawsuit. So I definitely think there needs to be some clarification on if the food is already expired or if it's just regular food that is still fresh. Thank you.
Before I go to the next mic, we have a request for information in the queue. We have a request for information at the microphone. That was first.
Chair, Nigerian Peoples, Antelope Valley College. I move to...
One second. A bit of background noise, a little too much background noise. We're having difficulty hearing up here.
I
Proceed.
move to divide the motions and vote on the resolve individually.
Okay, so you would like to divide the, move to divide the question?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let me just clarify, are you wanting to divide the question just for the vote or also for purposes of debate?
For both.
For both. Okay, so the motion is to divide the question, so we would treat it as if it was two different resolutions with a common preamble, the whereas clause. Is there a second to the motion to divide the question? Okay. Seconded Las Positas College. All right. So the motion is, shall the question be divided in two? I'm going to pause the clock for the resolution at the moment while we vote. First of all, is there any objection to dividing the question? Yes, there is objection to dividing the question. So, shall the question be divided into two resolutions? Resolved A, resolved B. We'll open the queue on the motion to divide the question.
So would that create 10 minutes, like new 10-minute intervals for? Oh, okay. So 5 minutes. We're at like 5 minutes. What? We're at 5 minutes right now. That's smart. Yeah.
Okay, I'm closing the polls. There is an affirmative to divide, so we will treat the motion as two separate motions. Again, the preamble is essentially common to both, but we will be doing resolved 1, resolved 2, and if there's no objection, because you've got a 10-minute time limit that extends to the whole resolution. But if there's no objection, since we're treating this as two separate resolutions, I'm going to start the clock. That'll be 10 minutes total for both. So 5 minutes for resolved 1, 5 minutes for resolved 2. So on resolved 1, and again, if you're only addressing resolved 2, step away from the mic at the moment. Right now, debate is open on resolved 1. Pro.
So Mahalia Swires, Butte College Pro, for resolved, the first resolved. A lot of students in the area in which I'm representing do not have access to even the most basic forms of food, like Harley was saying, like rice and things like that. And I strongly encourage everyone to vote pro for this because food is a basic human right. Food security is not something that students should have to worry about. That is something that is a basic human right that everyone deserves. Everyone deserves to have a full tummy at the end of the day. And if there's an easy and affordable way to do that, as presented in the first resolved, it should be done. Thank you.
Okay. We have a request for information in the chat on resolved 1.
Delegate Vang.
Delegate Vang from Butte College. My question is, how would the food be handed out? For instance, would students have to find plates where the food goes? And also, who would decide which students gets the food?
Would the author like to answer that question?
That's a local issue to be decided by the students at each campus. Obviously, they would follow the Uniform Commercial Code as well as public health and safety codes. So whatever is safe and efficient for any particular campus, it needs to be a local solution. Thank you.
All right, con microphone on resolution 1.
Darius Rigo from City College of San Francisco. I would just like to say this resolution shows a lack of understanding of existing programs to help students with food insecurity, including the basic needs and Spark Point systems that are actually going to be implemented at all community college campuses in July.
I rise to a point of personal privilege. I feel like Darius has said that I lack a fundamental understanding at every time he has reached to this mic.
I recognize what you were saying, but that is not the proper use of a personal privilege. Shouldn't be interrupting the debate.
Thank you.
May I continue?
Yeah.
Thank you. And shall I address or shall I just continue?
Actually, let me, I'm going to take the prerogative. This is a close call, but I understand what he's saying, and it's a fundamental rule of parliamentary procedure that you should be focusing on the resolution, not the motives or understanding of the person that made it. And I recognize reasonable minds may differ on this, but since the author has taken offense by it, I would just say, please be cautious in your remarks and address the resolution.
Understood. Thank you. Continuing, I would like to speak to how this would complicate existing programs meant to help students with food insecurity. I also feel as though this is providing food of potentially poor nutritional quality to students who deserve so much more than that. We should instead be supporting programs and bolstering programs that provide these students who are food insecure with healthy food. Additionally, bookstores are often not even connected to the colleges they serve, so I'm unsure how even that aspect of this resolution would work. I far much more support giving students who are food insecure healthy and nutritious food that they can consistently depend upon. This is not dependable. There's not always going to be leftover food from the bookstore or cafeteria. There needs to be a consistent, dependable source of food for students. Thank you.
Okay, we have a point of information in the chat? Pro in the chat. Go ahead.
Nardine, I apologize if I butcher this, but Gerges from Golden West College.
Yeah, that's fine. It is Nardine Gerges from Golden West College, and I'm speaking with Pro. I currently work for my college's food distribution center, and I can say we only ask for ID numbers. That's how our campus works. That's all we need, your ID number, not even the card itself. And I can constantly hear students telling me about, oh, this helps me. I can feed my child now. I don't have to focus on, grocery shopping. I can actually do my homework tonight. And it's just like, I've never heard a negative thing come from our food distribution center on campus. And whenever we get donations, we always make sure that food is acceptable for students to use. I have never, seen something bad from our own personal experience, and I would recommend other colleges do as our college has been doing. Thank you.
Okay. Con microphone.
Hi, my name is Jasmine, Folsom Lake Community College. I would just like to say that this is already happening. Last year, the governor allocated money in his budget to allocate food pantries on all California community college campuses, as well as create basic needs centers on all California community campuses. So the food insecurities are being addressed, as well as CSAC is working on more CalFresh awareness so students can apply for CalFresh and tackle down the food insecurity that many community college students face.
Going to a pro in the chat, we have 40 seconds left.
Radford Rumpf.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I would like to say that I am for this bill simply because I, at the local level, representing Foothill College, know that it does work. We have a program in place where the student is allowed to get the healthy food that is needed, and we also have students and faculty that safeguard and monitor the food pantry itself to make sure that the students are eating healthy and the food is being, when it is actually being distributed. Thank you. I yield my time.
Okay. That is time for debate on the first resolve clause. We're about to open the poll. The question is, shall we adopt? There's a point of information in the chat. If it relates to the poll or the conduct of the vote we're about to take, we'll entertain it. If it's a substantive question, time is up.
Santa Rosa Delegate Maddie.
Yeah, this is Santa Rosa Delegate Maddie Cottrell. I am wondering if CalFresh was consulted in the drafting of this, and if they were a sponsor.
We're not going to entertain that point of information in a moment. We're going to proceed to the vote. So the poll is to adopt resolved clause 1. Again, just to make it clear what you're voting on.
Can you request more time to debate on this? It's asking in the chat.
I'm sorry, we do have in the chat a motion asking about extending time for debate on resolved clause 1.
There's a question, not a motion.
Oh, Yeah, yes, it is proper. It is proper since you entered the queue before the time was up. You could move to extend debate on Resolve Clause 1.
It's been moved in the chat for 5 minutes.
It's been moved. Is there a second to the motion to extend debate on Resolve Clause 1?
Santa Rosa Junior College seconds.
Okay. So the motion is to extend debate on Resolve Clause 1. That's a 2/3 vote, not debatable. So please open the poll on the motion to extend debate on Resolve Clause 1.
It was David Horta from Hartnell College. Yeah. Yeah, we're voting whether or not to extend.
Yes, a yes vote extends time to debate Resolve Clause 1 for 5 more minutes. Okay, I'm going to close the poll on the vote to close debate. It did not receive a 2/3 vote, so the debate is closed, and we will proceed to the vote on adopting Resolve Clause 1. Please open the poll.
Huh? Yeah, it failed. So now we're just voting. 1 second.
Okay, I'll give a few more seconds for the poll. Okay, I'll close the poll on Resolved 1. The ayes have it. The Resolved 1 is adopted. Before I start the clock on Resolve 2, I just want to give a quick explanation. Anytime I change my position on a ruling on the chair, I like you to understand why I did so, just for future reference. The reason why I corrected myself on the point of personal privilege was, it's not a point of personal privilege. A point of personal privilege, well, let's put it this way. What he raised was really a point of order. And if he'd shouted out point of order, I might have instantly recognized it and thought about it. But a point of personal privilege is asking permission to do something or to be granted some privilege. So recognize that when you're talking points of privilege or requests for privilege, you're asking essentially for the body to, or the chair, to grant you permission to do something or to correct something that's incorrect in the room, like the air conditioning or whatever. If you believe that remarks are indecorous or improper, then the proper thing to do is raise a point of order. And the reason for the distinction is points of order are allowed to interrupt. Points of personal privilege do not. So that's the explanation. With that, we will now go on to Resolve Clause 2 for purposes of debate. Pro mic. Start the clock for 5 minutes.
Hello, I'm Harley Liggett, Butte College. He mentioned that there are a lot of other things provided by the college, and he mentioned also CalFresh. I've applied for CalFresh. I make about maybe $2,000 a month, if that, and they denied me. They deny so many people CalFresh, even though they are barely making it. My mom, when she applied, she had 2 kids, and she was making, it was 2008, and she was making about $1,000 a month, and she was denied. And a lot of people that do get it are only getting about $100 a month. So to say like, oh, we have these in place, it's extremely hard to get it. And not only that, but a lot of these people are too scared to apply for it. And it's just not plausible to say that all of these are already in place and there's nothing more we can do. Thank you.
Information on microphone 2, on the center mic.
Ashley Teague, Solano College, request for information. I have a question for the author on Resolve 2. Where would the funding come for this?
There are many funds and grants and federal programs that could be theoretically used. However, again, this is a local campus issue, and each individual campus will have to look at its budget and its funding sources and what facilities it will need to create in order to best serve as a food bank for its student community and wider community. So the funding, you'll have to ask the chancellor at your campus.
Con microphone.
Thank you so much. Wow, this is low. Kyle Johnson from Las Positas College. I wanted to speak against this second resolve just because AB 775, the Basic Needs Center bill, was already passed this year in legislation with $30 million of reoccurring funding every year. In addition, community colleges like my own can't afford to create a perishable area within their college. This requires refrigeration and things of that nature, even a special lighting that as we are learning to build our own Basic Needs Center on campus. So this funding regarding this type of resolve would need to come from the state and not just be responsible for each community college. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving to the Zoom queue. Pro.
David Orta, Hartnell College.
Yes, hi, thank you. According to a recent report by Temple University of Wisconsin Hope Lab, 36% of college students say they are food insecure, and this is a low estimate. And while conditions remain dire for students from low-income families, the burden of covering these basic necessities is spreading into the middle class. And according to a professor, Sarah Goldrick at the Temple University report, for poor students, she says it really undermines their ability to do well in school. Their grades suffer, their test scores appear to be lower, and overall their chances of graduating are slimmer. They can barely escape the conditions of poverty long enough to complete their degrees. Like a different student specified, it's important to address the needs of these students. And yes, we do have a bill that passed for the student basic needs, but I think we're still underestimating the tremendous amount of importance that nutrition plays in the factor of a student completing their student education. They need that nutrition. Thank you.
Okay, we only have about a minute left. Con in the queue.
San Joaquin Delta College.
Hi, I'd like to point out that schools becoming food banks are opening them up to the public. And if the goal is to provide for students who are experiencing food insecurity, then that invites other people to sort of share in these resources, which will make less resources available for a student. Which would fit the purpose of the whole program itself. Thank you.
Okay. Pro microphone, about 15 seconds.
Yes, hi, Jose Garcia from Palomar College. I would like to address that today we're discussing this issue for students to be able to have access to food. And me, myself, and others do depend on these food banks, especially during hard times when there's no school. And in addition, having a food bank.
Time.
Chair.
We have a
Chair.
question from the Nation Center, Mike.
Ashley Teague, Solano College. I move to extend time.
Which college?
Solano College.
Solano College is moving to extend time 5 minutes on Resolve 2. Is there a second to the motion to extend time? Okay, Cypress College seconds. Okay, again, the motion is to extend time. A 2/3 vote will open the poll. If a yes vote means to extend the time on Resolve 2 for 5 more minutes, a no vote says do not extend time and proceed to the vote. Please open the queue.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they can extend the time for resolutions. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll on the motion to extend time.
Get it out of here,
The motion to adopt did not achieve a two-thirds majority, so we will proceed to the vote. So the motion is to adopt Resolved 2 on S220406. Please open the poll on adopting S220406 Resolved 2.
There was a point of information in the chat beforehand, but since like the poll's open.
Okay, just a few more seconds and I will close the poll. Okay, the poll is closed. The ayes have it. You have adopted Resolved Clause 2 on S22-406. Your next resolution is S22-0407, expansion of AB 540 and Cal Grant eligibility, sponsored Sacramento City College. Is Nakul Srikanthan? Yes. Recognize the pro mic.
Hello. Thank you for having me today. I just want to say before we get into this that there's a lot of good information about this issue in the whereas clauses, but for today we're here to argue about the resolves and how the resolves affect this. And I also wanted to clarify from all our previous experiences that the resolves don't actually change any of the laws, but we're telling the SSCCC to advocate for that. And so that's precisely what we're trying to do with this resolution. So for this resolve, what we're asking for the SSCCC to do is to create a subcommittee within SSCCC to pretty much navigate and help all immigrant students in California and help solve their problems. So that's one of the resolves. The second resolve in this resolution is to help students who immigrated here when they were children under their parents' visa, legal visa, and went to elementary school, middle school, and high school in the state of California, but are not being eligible for Cal Grant solely due to their visa status. And so we want to make this resolve and help and encourage the SSCCC to advocate in the California State Legislature to reform Cal Grant to include these students as well.
30 seconds.
Because they are California residents and they do deserve to be included in the Cal Grant and Cal State financial aid. And the third and fourth resolves go to make a more inclusive process for admissions and financial aid when they're being admitted to UCs and CUCs. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one at the con mic and no one in the queue, we will proceed for the vote.
What about pro right here?
Oh, I'm sorry, we have another pro. Pro
Thank
mic.
you. Pro Gavin Ong from Mount San Antonio College. I'd just like to speak on behalf, as a F1 visa holder and an international student. I'd like to raise awareness about the misnomer and misconceptions about international students. A lot of people would think that international students are quite wealthy and can afford the college tuitions here. But a majority of them actually come from second world or developing countries whose families are trying to push for better education for their own children. And most of them are selling off most of their own products or like housewares and like doing 2 to 3 jobs each day, 2 to 3 jobs just to provide for their children. Also, I would like to raise awareness that we have very we have quite a lot of restrictions and regulations on top of us. So for even if the international students want to help supplement their own income and raise money to pay for the tuitions, we have very limited a lot of limitations. We're only allowed to work 19 hours on campus only, and that itself has a lot of regulation restrictions. Also, these regulations, we face deportations, like just at the beginning of the pandemic. There's a stipulation that international students are not allowed to take online classes. So all of us were facing deportation at the beginning of this pandemic, and that was quite
30
a
seconds.
scary ordeal. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no one opposed to speak, we will proceed to the vote. The motion is to adopt 220407, expansion of AB 540 and Cal Grant eligibility. Please open the poll.
I think why a lot of polls are being open. You could explain why if there are any.
Okay, just a few more seconds. Okay, the poll is closed. The motion is clearly in the affirmative. You have adopted S220407. Before we proceed to the next one, I just do want to explain to the delegates who are at the microphone over here, even though time had not yet expired, under your rules and practices, if we've had a balanced debate and there's no one speaking con, then if we've had balance of pro and cons and there's no one else to speak con, then we just stop the debate and proceed to the vote. Next resolution is S220408, LGBTQ plus training for all SBAs, sponsor San Jose City College. Author is Robert Andrade. Is Mr. Andrade in the room?
Yeah, that's him right there.
Okay, I believe he's approaching the microphone.
Can we just
The author's right here.
Oh, nice.
Robert.
Okay, please proceed, Mr. Andrade.
Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Andrade. I am a student trustee at San Jose City College, also Region 4 delegate member. First, I would like to say hello to all my fellow student leaders, faculty, advisors, and the SSCCC staff. Thank you for allowing me to speak on this resolution. That being said, ew, I look so ugly. That being said, despite the evolution of the LGBT community, I think we can all contextualize that there's always room to improve and grow and, evolve slightly a little bit more. So by this resolution, I'm sorry, is that me? Okay. That being said, this resolution would just offer, the SSCCC offer and support LGBTQ training to all SBAs. Whether that entails deepening knowledge on the LGBT community itself, sensitivity training, how to properly advocate. There we go. That's better, I think. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it as far as that. Now I'm willing to listen to any questions or have any feedback that everyone has. Thank you.
Okay.
There's a con in the chat. There's a con in the chat.
Pardon me?
Yeah, right. There's
Okay.
a con in the chat.
All right. There's no one at the con microphone here, but there is a con in the chat. So.
Chaffee College delegate.
Hello, thank you, everyone. I would like to say for this particular item on the agenda that I feel it should be room to be more inclusive because there's other groups as well that could benefit from information for sexual harassment, such as the Bureau of Statistics that report for every one raped by African American women, 15 go unreported. And also that Association of American Universities revealed that college students with disabilities were victims of sexual violence at rates higher than students without disabilities. 31.6% of undergraduate females with disabilities reported non-consensual assault. So I would like to see this bill be more inclusive. Thank you.
In the chat, we have a request for information.
Irvine Valley College delegate.
Thank you. So in the resolved, it states that the Student Senate for California Community College offer and support LGBT training. My question would be, is the SSCCC themselves expected to provide this training, or is it asking for a more of a professional person to do this training? Thank you.
Robert, would you like to answer that question?
Thank you for the question. Thank you for allowing me to clarify. Based off the Assembly Bill 132, AB 132 by the provides additional funds of $10 million to community colleges to support LGBTQ community. So it would be a combination of both the SSCCC and then utilizing that Assembly Bill to create a training that's veered specifically towards your campus's needs and demands regarding the LGBT community. I don't know if that answered your question, but thank you.
Oh, we have a request for information in the chat.
Okay, another request for information in the chat.
David Orta, Hartnell College.
Thank you so much. My question is just to the author and or authors. I'm just curious, with this resolution, do you believe this resolution could possibly create contention with students that have religious or personal convictions that are contrary? For example, a Christian student might feel uncomfortable being forced to kind of undergo this kind of training. Additionally, another student had mentioned victims of assault, and on that same subject, there are a high number of child abuse victims, especially here in California.
Pardon me, question in the chat. Please wrap it up with a question. You're starting to engage in debate.
Those victims I'm not saying that LGBT or anything is wrong. I'm just saying that it could be a point of emotional trigger for some people that have faced horrible forms of child abuse by same-sex individuals.
Okay, I'm going to ask the person in the queue to mute themselves. He's engaging in debate, and he was recognized out of sequence for a request for information. There is a point of order in the chat.
Santa Rosa delegate Maddie.
Thank you. You stopped it already. I just took offense.
All right.
To clarify, I take offense to equating sexual assault and the LGBTQ community.
Okay. I understand that. We had a balanced debate, but because I recognized a point of information that became a con argument, I will recognize one more pro speaker before we proceed to the vote.
Hi, Brianna Montalongo. I'm from Butte College. I'm in favor of this vote mainly because I'm personally a part of that community, and there are still quite a bit of faculty and staff just on my campus alone that do not recognize or do not support the students a part of this community, and I feel like it is very important that all faculty and staff members should have to go through a training to actually make sure that there are some type of sensitivities, not even necessarily to the LGBTQ community itself, but to all communities as well. But for this one specifically, yes, I believe that this is something that is very crucial to make sure that we are inclusive and understanding to everyone in our community, so that way we can all grow together and be leaders. Thank you.
Okay, con microphone.
Yes, Corey from Antelope Valley College. I just wanted to, I'm a con because it's not including all the other students. It's only singling out just the LGBTQ students. Plus, when I think the student body needs to learn about what students of lesser economic backgrounds come from. They need to learn about what different cultural backgrounds come from, such as Asians and Spanish-speaking people who struggle because their moms or dads cannot speak English. So, yeah, it's just singling out for these, and I think it should include, a broader range of people that should be taught to the SBA. That's it.
Okay. Request for information at the center mic.
Yes, hi. I wanted to make a motion to extend time. Oh, Delegate Brandt, City College of San Francisco.
Okay, there's a motion to extend time, but unless there's objection, we have no one else to speak con. We have a line at the queue. I'm going to recognize one more pro because that would be the balanced debate. So unless there's objection, we'll recognize one more pro and then proceed to the votes.
We went to a pro first. And then
So pro microphone.
Alrighty. So just per debate, I just want to say this is an amazing piece of work and legislation. I want to thank the author for writing this. Having proper LGBTQ training for all SBAs to ensure inclusivity is really important, and it's part of our vision and mission as student government. To address the first con that was presented, it could definitely, actually it addresses both the first and second con. It could definitely afford to be more inclusive, but a step in one direction is a step in any direction, and there's no need to necessarily turn down this piece of legislation to not move forward. We can definitely pass this piece of legislation and then write further legislation building upon this in the future, if that's something that we would like to include. That's all I have to say.
Okay. No one else con at the mics or in the queue, so we will proceed to the vote. So the motion is to adopt S220408. Please open the queue. That is LGBTQ training for all SBAs.
no. Wait, did we not extend time? Only because there was like a bunch of pros and no cons. Because wasn't there just a motion to extend time from?
Yeah, but I said I'm going to just, rather than recognize the motion unless there's objection, I was just going to recognize the motion and go if she didn't object.
Okay.
There was still a lot of business doing on the hands.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I'm about to close the poll. Okay, the motion is adopted by a vote of 52 to 7. Okay. And just to clarify, that was adopting S220408. Our next resolution is S220409, further expanding open education resources for CCC students, sponsored by Delta College. The author, Stephen Zeman, Rabeh Khan, Jeriel Negunte, and Jarvis Alcantara. Is one of them in the room to speak to the motion?
Or on the chat. Or in the chat.
Okay. In the chat is...
No, or are they in the chat?
Or in the chat, excuse me.
Because I think one of them is.
I see no one approaching the mic. Oh. They're in the chat. Who's in the chat? Okay. All right, I understand someone is on Zoom. Please identify yourself and start speaking.
Hi, my name is Jerome Woodson. I am the delegate to the American Personal College. This was we agree that there has been advocacy on behalf of OER and has been funding. We have actually seen the stagnating of OER, in fact, for the last 2 years, as we saw most classes are online. Teachers actually choose less to the OER, and we've been finding the problem is that it's very time consuming for teachers. So faculty for textbooks they're using, and when they have to make something from Cengage or McGraw-Hill that's already completed, or spending the extra hours on top of what they already have to do to create OER material for the courses, teachers actually choose to go with the expensive textbooks. So what we seek to is to advocate for the creation of a task force of teachers who are going to go ahead and research through all of the OER materials out there. High quality OER content, course ready material that teachers can actually use without having to spend extra time that's unpaid on class created for the students. We also advocating that this material be compiled into a very accessible database for all California teachers. I think that's basically from what
You have 30 seconds left. You may continue speaking. I'm just letting you know you have 30 seconds left to speak.
Okay, so in formal cognitive implies that the definition of zero cost will actually be changed in ed code to include low cost. So when students are making grades or the level doing of zero cost, they might actually have to pay for textbooks when they're taking these courses, and also we advocate that that definition change and that zero cost actually
Thank you. Your time is up. All right, there's no one opposed either at the microphone or in the queue, so we will proceed to the vote. The motion is to adopt S220409, further expanding open education resources for CCC students. Please open the poll. Do we have the poll open? Okay.
I would be surprised.
Is the poll open?
Seems to be a tech
All right,
issue. We'll get it open in a moment.
It was for the furthering expanding open education resources resolution. Oh. It's for S220409.
Was adopted.
Yes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 2 of them.
Yeah.
They were full, right?
Okay. Okay. The poll is now reopened. There was a technical issue, so even if you voted earlier, please vote again. Only one vote will be recorded. You won't be voting twice. So the poll is reopened. Oh, yeah.
There it is.
Here it comes.
Oh, wow. I think it's appropriate.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. It's very clear, almost unanimous. You have adopted 220409. The next resolution is S220410, lowering GI Bill requirements to assist transitioning veterans. The author is D'Angelo Hunter, sponsor Irvine College. I see someone approaching the mic. Pro mic.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
So,
D'Angelo's here. The author is here to.
author's here?
So
Oh, okay. We will recognize the author first. I didn't see.
He's in Zoom.
Okay. Oh, on Zoom, sorry.
Yes.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is D'Angelo Hunter. I'm from Irvine Valley College. I'm a student body president, and I'm a veteran of the United States Army. I served 6 years in the military. When I returned from Afghanistan in 2011, I applied. I stuck around. I took some time off from school, about a year, and I was living in California after moving from Iowa. When I went to enroll into courses, however, I hadn't established a residency by 2013, and so I wasn't able to put myself into courses at that time without paying a large out-of-state tuition. Not only that, my veteran benefits are tied to the amount of units that I'm allowed to take. So if I can not meet 12 units of requirements, my basic allowance for housing would be reduced by a severe percentage and not feasible for me to not be able to work as well, which is what the GI Bill was intended to do when it was originally created in World War II, to offset the amount of veterans returning from the war. So by advocating for the legislation and trying to lower these requirements would give veterans a better control over their schedule as they come back to college. Retention rates of veterans are severely lacking when it comes to transitioning from one semester to the next. But veteran success, once they latch onto the system of community college, or even once they're able to get into the full-time enrollment, their
20 seconds left.
a bit higher. So by being able to reduce these requirements, we step forward to not only acknowledging the non-traditional paths, which comes in the vast majority of veteran students, it'll also give them more control over what they're able to take on as they return back into civilian life.
Okay, time is up. Thank you. Okay, there are no cons in the queue, so we will go to the con mic in the room.
Hello, my name's Taisha from Palomar College, Region 10. And a con on this is they're not specific on which GI Bill benefits they're talking about. There's multiple. There's GI Bill benefits. There's GI Bill post 9/11 benefits, which can be passed down to your spouse and dependent. There's GI Bill benefits Chapter 35, which allows a stipend for your dependent and spouse. So because it's not specific, this bill should not be passed. In addition to, when it comes to the stipulations that are made, it comes from the federal government, specifically the VA department. And the VA department's notoriously known for being incredibly slow. Like if you're a veteran and you try to see a doctor, it's a 3 to 6 month wait. So if we want to help vets, I feel like we should focus more so on helping that aspect. In addition to, not everyone, again, who uses GI Bill benefits is a vet. Dependents and spouse can also use the benefits. So because it's not specific enough on which GI Bill benefits they want to use, I feel like it should not be passed.
Pro microphone.
Hi. So as a student who has on multiple times considered enlisting myself to be able to afford my education, I think it would be amazing to pass legislation that supports our veterans. All they're asking for is a switch from 12 to 9 units. That's one class. And if one class can assist our veterans in getting through college and getting through their life tasks after transitioning, after fighting for our country, then I think this is a very feasible bill to pass. And if not, I mean, and as far as for GI benefits, why wouldn't you want to assist the spouse and family of a veteran transitioning after fighting for our country? I don't understand why you wouldn't want to do that in the first place. All GI benefits, in my personal opinion, would be adequate. But if we needed to be specific, I'm sure that the author could provide clarity as well. My apologies, Victoria from Mount San Antonio. I forgot to state my name in college.
She just said she's from Mount San Antonio.
Okay. Con microphone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alejandra Bautista. I'm the Cypress College delegate. By allowing the change from 9 to 12 units, we're not helping veterans making a transition, but rather enabling them to take even longer to transfer and exhaust their GI benefits. As of right now, these students are able to take less than 12 units if needed and still receive some of the benefits. As for the second result, this is something that has already been implemented on the new Forever GI Bill. GI Bill recipients will not be charged out-of-state tuition and are eligible for in-state tuition in all 50 states, or the school will lose the GI Bill funding, according to the Veterans Access, Choice, and Accountability Act. On the last result, I believe that the extension from 36 to 48 months is the only feasible and reasonable result from this resolution, as it has not been implemented yet. However, we don't believe that the resolution as it stands right now should be passed today. Thank you.
We have a pro in the Zoom queue.
Rad for Rumpf.
Can you hear me? Hello?
You there, Catherine?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Chair. I would just like to say that I will pro for the veteran GI benefits bill simply because, as the delegate stated, that the veterans have served their country and they have fought in war. So it is only in the best interest of supporting the veteran students that we have this bill for their benefit because they are already having a very difficult transition into their educational and academic endeavors. Thank you. I yield my time.
Pro microphone.
Hi, everybody. My name is Zachariah Wooden. I'm a student at Delta College. Now, this issue is really personal to me because I'm a military dependent, and my father is a active duty United States military veteran. We share the GI Bill. I think this resolution is really important because I know personally, from personal experience, it is a difficult process to not only get counted for in-state tuition, because as a military family, we've moved around a lot. And so, having residency requirement and meeting those residency requirements is incredibly difficult. But also, the lowering of the credit requirement is incredibly important because it lowers that barrier, that difficulty for not only U.S. veterans, but possibly military dependents and spouses as well.
Point of order, there's two pros in a row. So just for the equity purposes because the person in Zoom was also pro as well.
Yeah, we're alternating between pro in the Zoom and then pro in the person.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, my mistake.
Okay. I recognize the point ready to be taken, but we do not. It's not timely. We're going to let the person continue the remarks.
I'd just like to finish off by also saying that the SSCCC also does federal advocacy. It's not maybe not one of the more well-known ones, but it also does federal advocacy on the federal level. One of the examples is the EATS Act, which also extended SNAP availability to college students. That is a federal bill. So the SSCCC does do federal advocacy. I do acknowledge the points made about, what's the clarification about the GI Bill and the post-9/11 GI Bill, because that is important. There are different, qualifications and requirements. But I think we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. This resolution is critical, and I believe it should be passed, and I hope that the
Okay, you have 15 seconds left.
Thank you.
Okay, Con microphone.
Osias Garcia from Palomar College. First of all, I would like to say that just because I'm here does not mean I support veterans. My friends are in the military, and my brother's going into the military after high school. There is an issue, though, because for immigrants, what about us? We have to work and support our families. And also, there's people who live on low incomes. What about them? So this should be fair for everybody. And like they say, if we change something for one person, we have to do it for the other person. In addition, this will mess up the pathway for students. It will make students continue their education to community college, thus delaying their goals overall.
Okay. Pro microphone, and we have about 1 minute left.
Hi, my name is Alan Wu. I'm from College of Desert. I am an active duty.
1 second. We have a request for information at the center mic. I didn't see her there at first.
Cypress College delegate, I'm making a motion to split the question and vote on each resolved individually.
Okay. All right. Before we take that up, let him finish. Since we only have 1 minute more for debate, let me let him finish his remarks since he was already recognized. You have 1 minute.
Hi, I'm Alan Wu from College of Desert. I am an active military member in the Marine Corps. I am stationed in Tornado Palms, California. I'm not originally from California. I'm actually originally from Pennsylvania. The GI Bill, when I get out of the military in a couple months, is going to help me a lot because GI Bill is not only going to cover for my school, but it also covers for housing as well. The GI Bill pays you about $1,000 to $3,000 a month for housing. So if I'm not buying a house, if I don't have a house, I can't go to school. And currently I'm in California, so I don't have a house. So that means I gotta go all the way back to Pennsylvania and start all over. So the GI Bill is gonna cover for that housing. And switching from
15 seconds.
36 months to 48 months, that means I can have housing for the entire 4 years rather than 3 years where I have to worry about a whole year where I have to make money and care for the house, where I sacrificed 4 years of my life. Thank you.
Okay, there is a motion to divide the question to take a separate vote on each of the three resolved questions. Is there a second to the motion to divide the question? Okay. It's been seconded. I didn't catch the name of the college.
Merritt College.
Merritt College. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to.
Objection from Antelope Valley College.
Okay, an objection is not in order, so let me explain how objections work. You can only object to considering a resolution, and you need to object before we begin debating it, so there's a very thin segment of time to object. Under Robert's Rules of Order, you may only object to a main motion. The other 83 motions in Robert's Rules of Order, I should say 82 because one of them is object, may not be objected to. So the motion before you is to divide the question. That is a motion that cannot be objected to. It's a subsidiary motion. And it is too late to object to the entire question because we've already been debating it. So make sure you understand you cannot object to any procedural motion. You can only object to a resolution, and if you object to considering a resolution, that objection needs to be made before we begin the debate. With that said, the motion before you right now is, shall we divide the three resolves to take a separate vote on each? Please open the poll on dividing the question. Actually, let me just ask, is there any objection to taking separate votes?
That's what they.
Okay, there is objection, so we will take a vote on the motion to divide the question. A yes vote means we will vote on each of the three resolve clauses individually. A no vote means we will vote on the resolution as a package.
Oh boy. Oh, it's too close to the mic.
Yeah, no problem, I can see it on the screen.
It's not when I'm joining the military to see that happening.
Looks like the votes are coming in a little slowly. We'll leave the poll open for a few more seconds. Okay, we will close the poll. Looks like the motion to divide the question fails. We will then vote on the resolution as a whole. So the motion now is to adopt S220410, lowering GI Bill requirements to assist transitioning veterans. Please open the poll.
So I don't get some time on debate? Well, I mean, no?
I'll get you
yeah?
soon.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. The motion is adopted, 46 to 5. Okay, Resolution S220411, pronoun inclusive programs, was adopted yesterday on the consent calendar. So the next resolution is S220412, sustainability resolution, sponsored by Irvine Valley. The author is Rachel Abalos, Jahan Khan, and the Sustainability Committee. Is there someone in the room to speak on that, or is the mover in the queue?
I'm not seeing anything in the.
We don't see anything in the queue. Is one of the authors of the motion in the room?
Has the sponsor designated a speaker for this resolution?
Okay.
Rachel Abalos. Go ahead,
sorry.
Scott.
Rachel Abalos, Jahan Khan, and the Sustainability Committee.
Jahan Khan's in the chat.
Okay, I'm sorry, Jahan Khan is in the chat. Please go ahead and speak.
Thank you. The SSCCC has become an ally when it comes to sustainability, as with making sure our campuses are leading to a green future and green was it? Sorry, green was it initiatives? They have decided to reduce plastics with their previous resolutions from the previous years, but this can only be seen as performative if action is not taken. Students need to be equipped with information. So the SSCCC must advocate for audits on a faculty level as well as resources and budgeting level, so students can understand what's going on their own campuses, to understand how to mitigate and decrease their carbon output. The students can also be empowered with the Green Rolling Fund, which is a mechanism financially to increase and support future green initiatives.
Chair, point of order.
Okay, before I go to the point of order, just a quick announcement. There appear to be a lot of side discussions going on, and it can be difficult to tell whether you're just, discussing the news or whether you're discussing the resolutions. This is, of course, a public meeting, and the public is entitled to know what your thoughts are on the resolutions. So please hold the private conversations down, and if you want to speak to a resolution, approach to one of the mics. Okay. With that said, I recognize there's a line over here, but the author has spoken. It doesn't appear as though we have anyone opposed to the resolution. We have 45 minutes left till adjournment time. We still have 5 more resolutions to go. So unless there's objection, I'm going to close off debate and proceed to the vote on this motion. Okay, the motion is to adopt S20. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a point of order in the chat.
San Joaquin Delegate.
Yes, I want to make a motion to divide the question for the second resolve from the first dividend.
Okay, first of all, let me explain. That is not a point of order, it's a motion, but you are in the queue and you are entitled to be recognized for a motion. But I want to make sure I understand your motion. You want to divide the question. There are 4 resolved clauses. Are you asking to divide all 4, or is there some other way you wanted to divide it?
To divide the second one from the first to third.
Okay, so you want a separate vote on the second one, but
Yes.
what about? So are you saying a separate vote on Resolve 2 and another vote on 1, 3, and 4 together?
Yes.
Okay. So the motion is to separate Resolve 2 for a separate vote. You would vote on the other 3 resolves as a package. Let me ask first, is there a second to the motion to divide? Anything in the queue? There is no second. The motion to divide is not before us. We will proceed to open the poll on adopting Resolution S220412 in its entirety. Please open the poll. Okay, we'll hold the poll open for a few more seconds.
No, there was no second to adopt.
Well, it's a little slow, but it looks like clearly that the motion is to be adopted. Oh, there it is, 57-5. Motion is adopted. Okay. Your next resolution is S220413. sponsored by Irvine College. Author is Ananam and the Judicial Court. This was an item that was on the consent calendar yesterday, and it was pulled for consideration. But so first we will recognize either in the room or in the queue, is the author Ananam or another representative available to speak to the motion?
Is the sponsor delegated speaker present?
You're on Zoom.
Oh. Anna?
Hi, thank you.
Yeah, she's on Zoom.
Okay, go ahead and please proceed.
Thank you for the floor. I'm here to share a little bit about the Celebrate resolution. As a member of SSCCC Judicial Court, I'm part of the body that oversees the grievance hearings, as well as issues related to student and grading equity. So this resolution was created out of a need for more transparency with syllabi. Particularly, we are urging that the SSCCC urge individual colleges to include more information on course scheduling, as well as more preemptive and archived access to syllabi. This resolution differs from the last syllabi resolution that the SSCCC passed, which is S200307, because it does recognize that past syllabi did state that the SSCCC should urge and create a policy to give public access to archives of course outlines of records in past syllabi, although this new resolution does more so focus on the fact that the SSCCC needs to work individually with individual California community colleges, not just with the AS of CCCs, in order to make sure that syllabi are accessible both in their featured form as well as in public archives. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there is no one opposed to the motion in the mics or the queue, so we will proceed to the vote. The question is to adopt S220413 syllabi resolution. Please open the poll. Okay, I'll close the poll in just a few seconds. Close the polls. The ayes have it. You have adopted S220413. Before I go to the next motion, and it looks like we may have a request for information, I do want to point out that we have 35 minutes left before the time for adjournment. We have 4 resolutions to go. That may not be a problem, but obviously I encourage you to be concise and to the point. If we get closer to the time of adjournment and if we have not completed the agenda, there are things that can be done. So I'll raise the issue again about 15 minutes out, but we don't need to raise the issue if we are expeditious. So with that, the next motion is S220414. Sponsors Lake Tahoe Community College. The author, Tahsil Patel. Is Tahsil Patel available?
I'm present on Zoom.
You have the floor,
Oh.
Tahsil.
All right, thank you. I would like to introduce my resolution to you, the General Assembly of this year. I thought of this resolution a lot because I've heard of a lot of personal experiences when it came to education and equal representation. And I've looked at all these different colleges and what they're working on in DEI and how they're approaching the new norms and new societal views that we have in society today. this resolution is focusing not just on race, it's focused on gender, sexual orientation, and other various factors that I may not mention today. But I want to know that this resolution supports students like you in that room, and I hope that you take a message with this resolution. Thank you. I yield my time.
Okay, in the room, center mic.
Ashley Teague, Solano College. I move to suspend the rules prohibiting amendments on resolutions.
She wanted to suspend the rules prohibiting amendments on resolutions. Yes.
Okay. The motion is to suspend the rules on the prohibit amendments on this motion. Let me ask, first of all, is there a second to the motion? Okay. So the motion is, your rules have a rather complicated process for submitting resolutions and amendments, and the deadline for amendments has passed. You can move to, there is a motion to suspend the rules, which takes a 2/3 vote. It is not a debatable motion, but the rules do permit the author of the motion to make a few words of explanation for why they want to do it. So please take a few seconds to explain why you want to suspend the rules to amend.
In the first whereas, it's specific enough to mention DESI as well as Latinx, and Latinx is category considered white, and so because of that, I think there should also be representation for Middle Easterners, and also continuing on with the third chapter of anti-hate, it's focusing on Native Americans, and this resolution does not include them.
Okay. All right. So you've heard the reason why she would like to have the rules suspended to permit her to make an amendment. So let me just ask, first of all, are there any objections to suspending the rules to permit an amendment?
There's a point of information.
Point of information in the chat, and you are objecting? Okay. So there is objection. Before we proceed to the vote, there is a point of information in the chat.
Chaffey College delegate.
Yes, I have a question. Will religious views, is that also part of the non-discriminatory part of this resolution?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Is religious views also part of those that would not be discriminated against in this resolution?
Could the author elaborate on the question?
I'm kind of stuck on the question. Could you kind of elaborate more?
Right. Like, you know how our religious views are supposed to be constitutionally protected. So I'm asking, would this resolution impede upon that, or would it consider that as well? Like, how does that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and interject. I understand the question, but rather than get in substantive issues, let's take the vote as to whether or not to suspend the rules. It takes a 2/3 vote to suspend the rules. If you want to suspend the rules and allow an amendment, you vote yes. If you want to just proceed to the vote on the resolution as is, you vote no. If the rules are suspended, then of course we will go into debate. So please open the poll on suspending the rules to permit amendment of S220414.
Since we approved them during the meeting, technically, during the meeting that we're in right now, we can, suspend it.
Yeah, so please open the poll. The motion is to suspend the rules. To suspend the rules to permit an amendment for S220414. All right, I'm not sure what happened. The poll flashed away, but it was, at the time that it flashed, it was 34-8. I believe that clearly indicates there's, okay, there are 2/3 in the affirmative. If you would please approach one of the mics and state your amendment. So it said the motion to suspend the rules to permit the amendment is approved. We will now recognize the speaker to make her amendment.
So I move to amend whereas to add whatever after where what. Give me a second. So I move to amend the first result by adding Native American and Middle Easterners after Latinx.
I move to amend the first resolve to add Native Americans and Middle Easterners after Latinx.
Okay, one moment. So the motion is to amend the first resolve,
Or sorry, first whereas.
first whereas, to add Native American and
Middle Easterners.
Middle Easterner. Okay. Okay. So the motion is to insert after the word Latinx, Native American, Middle Easterner. Is there a second to the motion to amend? I see you in the back. Can you identify your college?
Riverside City.
Riverside City. Okay. So the motion is to, it's been moved and seconded to insert after the word Latinx, Native American, Middle Easterner. So let me ask, first of all, is there any opposition to the proposed amendment? Seeing none, the amendment is adopted. Oh, I'm sorry.
John, do you have an objection?
Was there an objection?
There is an objection.
Okay. If there's an objection, then it becomes a debatable motion. So first we'll recognize the author to speak in favor of her amendment, and then we'll go to a con.
This needs to be added because as the SSCCC is doing, they want to increase their diversity, equity, and inclusion, and with the anti-hate chapter that is going to be presented at the next General Assembly, it's important to also include Native Americans, and as well with Middle Easterners, to identify Latinx as one of these groups who racially have to mark themselves as white. Middle Easterners have to do the same exact thing, and I want to see this representation for my family and the friends that I have.
Is there anyone who would like to speak against the motion? You can speak. Don't bother. Go ahead and use that mic.
As in Uchinanchu of multiple religious, secular, and ethnic heritage, I see that many branches of my family are not represented in the first whereas statement. However, in the resolve statement, the very first resolve, it says that discrimination in all forms, and that includes everyone. If we enumerate specific populations for specific privileges and specific advantages, who are we not talking about? But when we talk about everyone, we talk about everyone. Thank you.
We've had a balanced debate. There is a con in the chat. Before I go to the chat, is there anyone who would like to speak pro? Okay, then we've had a balanced debate. In the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and proceed to the vote. Oh, pardon me, we do have a... There's a con in the chat, but we're not going to recognize, we've had a balanced debate, so unless there's a pro, we're just going to proceed to the vote.
Well, you said you're not going to recognize the con, right?
Unless if there's no pro.
But why would we want the con?
We've had both a pro and a con. Unless there's a pro in the room who would like to speak, we're going to proceed to the vote. So the vote is on adopting the amendment. What's the motion in the chat? Okay. I just want to clarify, there's a motion in the chat to extend time for 5 minutes. I don't believe there's any need to extend time. Debate, there's no one, under your rules, we have had balanced debate, so I'm not going to recognize the motion to extend time as being unnecessary. So the motion is to adopt the proposed amendment. The amendment would insert in the first whereas, after the word Latinx, Native American, and Middle Easterner. With that said, please open the poll for approving the amendment. And we're only voting on the amendment only right now, not the main resolution. If you are in favor of the amendment, vote aye. Okay, a few more seconds and I will close the poll. Poll is closed. The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. So we are now voting on adopting S220414, Student Rights and Engagement, as amended. Please open the poll. Okay, a few more seconds, and I'll close the poll. Okay, the poll is closed. You have adopted S220415 as amended. The next resolution is 220416, 15. No exams on Election Day. Again, this is one that was on the consent calendar and it was pulled. The sponsor is City College of San Francisco. The authors are Angelica Campos, Darius Rego, and Heather Brandt. At microphone 1. Or pro microphone, rather.
Community college students have the lowest voter turnout out of all higher education students. And remember where voter turnout really matters. Your Board of Trustees elections, Board of Governors, and local legislators that make policy decisions about your education. We thought this resolution was necessary to help bolster the political power of community college students. We feel as though the adverse impact of not having exams on Election Day is minimal compared to the massive benefits that we would get from increased electoral participation from community college students. We also implore the California community college system through the legislature to make election days a holiday overall and have no courses on election days, which many private college students get the benefit of, including here in California at Stanford. We feel as though it is only equitable and fair to let our students at community colleges have the same privilege. Thank you.
Hot microphone.
Chair? Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry. Center mic. Yes.
Ashley Teague, Solano College. I move to suspend the rules that prohibit amendments on resolutions.
Okay. There's a motion to suspend the rules that prohibit amendments on this resolution. Is there a second to that motion?
Antelope Valley College seconds.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded to suspend the rules that would prohibit amendments on this resolution. And again, in a few words, could you explain the purpose for suspending the rules?
And the third whereas, it also includes elections that are held locally, and for Solano College, that would include 6 cities, and having runoff elections as well as the regular elections would make there have many more days that we would take as holidays and would extend our school year.
Okay. So you've heard the purpose for suspending the rules. So first, we'll open the poll. The motion is to suspend the rules to permit the amendment to the third whereas clause. Those in favor of suspending the rules to permit the amendment, please say aye, or pardon me, vote yes. Those opposed to suspending the rules to vote on the resolution as printed, vote no. I'm sorry, there's a question?
To repeat it. They want it repeated.
Oh, yes. So what you're voting on is to suspend the rules to permit an amendment to the whereas clause 3. If you are in favor of suspending the rules to permit an amendment to whereas clause 3, you vote yes. If you would prefer not to suspend the rules and just proceed to debate and vote on this resolution as printed, you vote no. It takes a 2/3 vote to suspend the rules. Okay, I'll give another few seconds for the poll. Okay, we're going to close the poll. The motion to suspend the rules did not achieve a 2/3 vote. So the rules are not suspended. The motion before you is 22-415 as printed. We have 6 minutes left to discuss, and we were about to go to, I believe, a con at the microphone.
Chair, Antelope Valley College delegate, I motion to split the motions separately and split the resolves separately and vote on them separately.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Could you repeat what you're asking?
I motion to split the resolves separately and to vote on them separately.
Okay. All right. So there is a motion to divide the question to vote on all three resolve clause separately, or just one of them?
Separately.
Okay, the motion is to divide the question on all three resolve clauses separately. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to divide the question to vote on all three separately. Let me ask first, is there any objection to dividing the question to vote on each of the resolve clause separately? I don't see any objection, so we will continue. I'm sorry, was there an objection? No. Okay, question. All right. Oh. So, all right, there's no objection. Oh, there is objection. Okay, then we must vote on whether or not to vote on to divide the question. So the poll is, shall we divide the question to vote on each of the three resolve clauses separately? A yes vote means you want three separate votes, one for each resolve clause. A no vote means you want to vote on the resolution as printed. Please open the poll on dividing the question.
Yeah, I just told you.
Yeah, I'm going to make an announcement.
I know.
I'm going to.
Okay, just a few more seconds on the poll. Okay, we'll close the poll. The motion to divide fails. So we are back on the resolution as printed, as a package. There are 3 minutes left.
Well, Chair, point of information.
Pardon me, 1 second. If you are rising for a point of information, I'll recognize it. If you're rising to make another motion, I'm going to go to a con mic first.
No, just information.
Okay.
Okay. So the point of information is for this resolution, we want to know which election days are they talking as election days? Because there's a lot of election days, so we want to know, is it only the one that occurs every 4 years? Or?
Okay. So will the author answer? I think the question is essentially going to, are we talking about the election day in November, or are we talking all the primaries and other election days that may exist as well?
The whereases respect the local, district, and statewide elections. However, the resolved referring to the amendment of the Education Code refers to only the election day that is federal and It refers to election days that are set by the state, because it would be statewide legislation. But it does ask that community colleges, in the two first resolves asking for community colleges to work with students, it asks for them to work with students on all election days, but again, the statewide action would only apply to statewide election days.
Okay. Con Mike.
Hello. My name is Rachel Alazar. I'm student trustee for Palomar College. I would like to mention, just based on all this, while this encourages voter participation amongst the younger demographics, it is important to understand that others in the nation hold similar limitations, including work, family, and other commitments in their daily life, and continue to participate in their civic duty. This resolution appears to be vague in the type of election this would apply to, and while it could apply to statewide elections, I foresee many local elections wanting to implement this on a local level. Additionally, this would not only alter college semester schedules as previously stated by the point of information, Mike Princeton, but it would alter how adjunct professors would be funded and class scheduling and more. It is up to the discretion of the professors to decide when exams are scheduled, as most election days are not held on a weekend or a holiday. They're held on a normal Monday through Thursday, so it is up to their discretion as professors. Thank you.
Pro microphone.
From Antelope Valley College. I'm pro in this because I am a...
And you have 1 minute.
Okay, I'm an advocate of voting and voter registration, election day, and this is a great resolution. I think that voting should be closed. Schools should be closed on voting days. And this year, that would be Tuesday. And they're both Tuesday, so Tuesday, June 7th, and Tuesday, November 8th. And I don't see what the big deal is if it's not close. We already got a low voter turnout among college students, so this is a good way to encourage students to go vote or to go volunteer for the voting polls, as I will be doing this year. So thank you.
Sure.
Question at the second mic?
Yeah, another point of information. So the last resolve, in the second to last line, it says, include election days as a day that community colleges shall close on as a legislative priority, but the title says no exams on election day. So we were wondering why there was a conflict over there as well. Thank you.
Yeah, would the author like to respond to the question? Or was it?
I apologize. The plural in that resolve was referring to the fact that there is multiple election days throughout time, but it still refers to only that statewide election day, and an amendment to that section of the Education Code would only apply to that election day.
Okay. All right, our time on this resolution is up. We're going to proceed to the vote.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move to refer this to the Board of Directors for further study and report on their findings, and Ashley T. from Slaw College.
Was that the motion to extend the time?
To refer to the board.
Okay. The motion is to refer to the Board of Directors. Our time for debate is up. So is there a first of all, for the motion to refer to the board? It has been moved and seconded to refer to the board. Our time is up, so we will proceed directly to the vote. So the first motion is, shall S220415 be referred to the board for further study? A yes vote refers to the board. A no vote means you will decide the issue today. So please open the poll on referring the resolution to the board. Okay, we'll keep the polls open for another 10 or 15 seconds. Okay, we're going to close the polls. The motion to refer to the board is adopted by a vote of 31 to 26. So S220415 will be referred to the board for further action. Now, I did want to clarify, we have about 9 minutes left till the time for adjourn. You have 2 resolutions, so let me explain the options to you. At 1 o'clock, okay, I've just been informed that with only 2 items left, we're just going to go ahead and proceed. We think we can finish the 2 items. So the next item is S220416, Advocacy for Campus Student Wellness Centers, sponsored by Cypress College AS. The author is Keisha Mehta. Is Keisha Mehta in the room?
Unfortunately, she couldn't make it, so I'm here on her behalf.
All right. Please identify yourself. And
Mina Pandian from Cypress College.
go proceed.
A wellness center is an establishment that offers health services for the mind and body as a whole. It's a physical space for students to learn about mental health and wellness, access mental health resources, and engage in discussion and reflection on the importance of health, wellness, and lifestyle. They are used for early prevention, relying on relaxation, recreational, and educational techniques to promote a healthy state of mind. In a time where mental illnesses are so prevalent and 73% of college students experience some sort of mental health crisis, wellness centers can be an integral resources for students to thrive. This resolution advocates for students to have a physical space to better their mental state, a non-judgmental place where students can go to relax, and if they want to, learn about cultivating a state of well-being in order to lead a fulfilling and sustainable lifestyle. Thank you.
Is there anyone opposed to the motion, either in the room or in the queue? Okay, if there's no one opposed, in the interest of time, we'll proceed to the vote. The motion is to adopt S220416, Advocacy for Campus Student Wellness Centers. Please open the poll.
They're confused on because there is an amendment to this resolution that's already posted. So there's an amendment here that is already posted. So is there an objection to the amendment first?
I didn't see it. Close the poll. We're not going to vote yet. I omitted something, and I didn't notice this at first. If you look on page 26, there is an amendment that was submitted to this resolution, and we need to deal with the amendment first. So, S220416.01, amend resolution advocacy for campus student wellness centers, would add a new whereas clause and amend the final resolve clause to read as it is in front of you. So let me ask, first of all, and I see that the amendment was submitted by the author. So is there anyone who would like to discuss the amendment? If not, I'm just going to ask, are there any objections to the amendment? Okay, there is an objection to the amendment, so we'll take a separate vote. The vote is, shall you adopt the amendment to 2204-1601? It's on page 26, amend resolution advocacy for campus student wellness centers, would add a new first whereas, and amend the final resolve clause as shown. Oh, please open the poll on the amendment only. A yes vote adopts the amendment, a no vote rejects the amendment. Okay, just a few more seconds. Okay, please close the polls. The amendment is adopted, a clear majority, 47 to 8. So you are now voting on S220416 as amended. So again, a yes vote adopts the motion as it was submitted, including the amendment that you've just adopted. few more seconds to let the poll catch up. Okay, we will close the poll at this point. The motion as amended is adopted by a clear majority. And that was your last resolution. So I thank you for your attention. So your parliamentarian will now mask up and turn the gavel back over to your vice president.
First off, thank you all for participating in a very lively resolution session. It was really exciting to see how engaged every one of you was in the con process, either if you had a parliamentary question or a pro. And congrats to all of the authors who had resolutions passed today. With that, I just want to give a few words of closing. I want to thank our media staff here in the back. You've been rock stars today. Also, they're not here right now, but I just want to thank all of the Holiday Inn banquet staff that have supported us, provided us food all weekend. Thank you. And also thank you to all of the college advisors that are here, to all of the SBAs, all of our delegates, all of our students. This is what it's all about. This is the first time we've been back in person for a long time, and to see 350 people here today was amazing. Sorry about that. So with that, I just want to say thank you all for being here on behalf of your colleges. We're going to adjourn. So if there are no objections, we're going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you for bearing with me this weekend. And the meeting's been adjourned. The delegate assembly has been adjourned.